What up? Hey everyone, I'm not late. I'm not barely organized again. Sorry, new setup. Zach Reed and Dynasty Outhouse can't make it this week. So it's just me and whoever happens to show up. Wish me well, I guess, because hopefully someone shows up. Otherwise, I'm going to be burdened with, trying to come up with decent answers to any questions you might drop in the comments. But really appreciate showing up. See a few of you already turning up. That's really cool. And let's get
You really did just put me on the spot, and you're gonna have me run this whole thing.
I did. I'm really interested in the idea of you just doing it today, John. Everyone welcome in Superflex dude, John Hogue.
What is up, buddy? Yeah, you said you were gonna have to try and come up with some good answers on your own, and I was like, I would hate to see you start now, so maybe I should jump in.
I went ahead and asked all three of my friends, and they all said no, and there was like, I best just start asking enemies, I guess. I got more of them anyway. Let's go. And John said yes. So
yeah, here we are.
Pretty pleased to have you in here. What have you been up to? You just podcasted with Zach Reed, who can't turn up today, I believe.
Yeah. I guess I just I used up all of his. I emptied his fantasy football bucket for the week, and now
now he's all done.
Yeah. So maybe you'll get him back next week as long as he doesn't guest on another podcast. But yeah, we had a fun talk about rookies, and I mean this is Zach's time of year. This is like I don't know if he just like hibernates through the regular season, and then we get to the rookie part of the calendar, and he's just he just kind of comes out of the cage and just goes to town. And so it's always fun to talk with him this time of year and see what he's thinking about some of these rookies. Man, it was good to hear that we're kind of in agreement that Malik Willis is not actually a good quarterback. Just kind of looks like a good quarterback.
I wouldn't know. Is Trey Lance a good quarterback? Me and Zach argue about that a lot.
Really? I think so.
Yeah.
I think he's fine. Yeah.
How is he just not Trey Lance, who couldn't start his first year?
Right. Well, yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
How is he not Malik Willis, who just hasn't started yet after his first year? I guess is the way we say it.
I mean, I will say this: I have Zach Wilson ranked ahead of Trey Lance. I think he's more likely to break out than Trey Lance.
Where have you got him ranked? About like 32nd or so? How much of a compliment is that? I guess I'm asking.
I mean, it's around quarterback 16, something like that, 15, 16.
Wow, I mean, I guess you got a lot of junk in the NFL. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
I'm really uninterested in Zach Wilson at this point, which is strange because I really want Elijah Moore. But that's not strange actually when I think about it. BJ Lee, hey buddy, how you doing? You're the only one here apparently. Like I think Outhouse and Zach were bringing in all the questions, so thanks, appreciate it, BJ. What side do you like, DJ, Hollywood, the 209, or Judy and the 103? Got any thoughts on that? I like Hollywood.
One quarterback.
I like DK. I do like Judy.
Yeah.
The 103, I'm assuming that's this year. He says, I'm thinking about tanking and keeping the Judy side and selling my major assets like Kelsey, Eckler, and Monty. See, the thing about Hollywood and DK is they're still both young. So they feel like declining assets, but they're not.
Yeah.
Like, they're both values. The 103 in a single quarterback league, I'd probably take the DK and Hollywood side there. I think both are worth still something next year.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so, I mean, dirty math on it would be Hollywood over Jerry Jeudy, DK Metcalf over 103. Like, that's it. I would rather have DK Metcalf than 103. I mean, you're looking at whoever's left between Treylon Burks and Garrett Wilson. And both of those guys, you're really just kind of hoping to get, what we've already seen from DK.
Yeah, especially if you're building, actually. I think DK is worth what I think Judy's upside is being worth what DK is worth right now. So, like, I think DK is going to be worth that this time next year. I think Hollywood is worth the 103. Well, that's a little hot, but I like him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just take the DK side all day. I think you're getting more value. You're buying them both undervalued, especially if you're building. I'd lean that side. But,
yeah,
that's where I'm at.
And you can still move Kelsey and Eckler. He's talking about doing that as part of a rebuild here. But I mean, to me, you build around DK Metcalf and Hollywood Brown. Like, those are good foundational players that you're going to have for a while. Going to give you plenty of runway to build it up.
Yes, sir. And to answer Boots, I've got no idea what's happening. It feels very. I really think Zach and Dynasty Outhouse Russ Fisher decided not to come, and everyone's like, "Well, screw that." I'm not interested. And I honestly, I feel it. Like, just sitting here talking with John all night, that does not sound as fun. Talking with your frenemy for 3 hours sounds
That's right.
Sounds terrible.
That's right. Read what Bob Gilchrist just said. That's important stuff. And I want to hear you say it out loud anyways.
John is finally going to bring some wide receiver value to the show. Well, I disagree with that a little bit. We've been talking a lot of wide receivers.
I mean, if there's one thing that I do, it's quarterback value.
That's true. Almost no one on this show talks about quarterbacks. Like, Russ and Zach play the value with QB, and I'm like, I don't care. Like, there are 3 I care about. It's like tight end to me. There are like 3 I care about, and the rest, someone. It's fine.
Yeah.
Plus, Hollywood is a fantastic football player. Yes, he is. Thank you. 26% target share. Machine go. Brr. Yes, he does. I describe him as a good football player on a good offense that gets 20% target share above, because then people object to it and you can correct him with, actually, it's 26, by the way. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, Hollywood's like almost the exact sort of player that I normally wouldn't highlight. He's very much a role player. He's very much less volume, more efficiency type of player, but he's very good at it. But like, no one will value him. He's like 7 years old, and everyone wants to value him like he's 32. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Like, I should be able to take him. Like, I should be able to take him off my value list. I had my value list a year, and he's still the same price. He's still the exact same place. All right, just leave him there. How would you pivot off Carter? I'm assuming you're saying Michael Carter. So you're asking, if we have Michael Carter on our roster, what are we doing if we don't want him? I'm putting a 2nd-round pick for him and seeing if I can get a wide receiver in my value tier. Can I get Rondell Moore? Can I get who else did I put on that list? You probably can't get. Try it by all means. Devontae Smith, Elijah Moore, Jerry Jeudy. They're probably out of your price range. Maybe not Hollywood, but yeah, that's my first thought. I'd put a 2nd with him and see if I could flip him into a wide receiver. I think has more potential. Like Rondell Moore, I'd have to pull up the list to see the rest. You can go other routes with it, but that's my safest first step, just trying to see what I can get from Michael Carter. Someone in your league's probably interested in him. John, any ideas?
I mean, not really, because I'm kind of not trying to pivot off of him. I don't know that there's a reason to. I mean, I think that offense is going to be better than people think, and
I think.
I don't really see a scenario where they draft a running back who's really going to push Michael Carter. So, I mean, if they've got other needs, particularly on defense, I think they're going to go with one of the big name wide receivers. And then I think you're going to see a lot of defense. So, yeah, I mean, to me, Michael Carter is kind of a value right now.
For me, he's not, because I think his upside is top 24 running back, and I think people, if I can find someone in my league willing to see that potential in him, then I'd rather take the value, because running back 2s are kind of not it. They're not difference makers. People overvalue them a little bit, so I'd much rather trade it. But I mean, if no one in your league's willing to think of Michael Carter as a top 24 running back, which is startable, then yeah, just keep him. But outside of that, I'm trying to flip him into one of my value wide receivers with my first shot. I'm also happy to add him as a piece to a larger trade. Like if you're trying to get Devontae Smith or Elijah Moore or Juju Smith-Schuster even, and the other person's interested in Carter, I'm very happy putting him in that trade to try and get it done. But that's what it is. I can hear myself. I don't know why. Sean Deegan, what's your process for starting a rebuild for a middling team, 10-team, half PPR, Superflex league? I feel like my team is 7th at best. Yeah, if you feel like you're middling, then you're middling. And, not to outright steal content from John Bosch, but I'm gonna. If you're in the middle, you're already at the bottom. You want to be at the top of the league or the bottom of the league. So, yeah, you're essentially trying to change your roster rather drastically. I'd have to see the roster to make up my mind specifically, but if I'm honestly just like, we have to do something here, you sell everyone that's worth something for what they're worth, and you invest in, Zach would say, a rookie draft, like pick one. I would say I'd get all the capital I can and try and make moves with it to try and recraft my roster as soon as possible. I'm not trying to build within windows. I want to make moves, and at the end of those moves, my team's better. So, but ultimately, yeah, you shouldn't be afraid of just evacuating all your points into value. And so that's where I'd go about it. I'd start with anyone that I've got in the top tier list, and just because everyone should be interested in, if you've got Jefferson, if you've got Chase, assuming not since you're 7th. But if you've got someone on that list, it's easier to find trade partners for them. And I'd just draw my value lines. Like for players like that, they're worth 3 firsts. So that's roughly what I'm looking for. I'm not really interested in what I'm getting back either, just that it's around that value so that I can make other moves from those moves. But again, I try to be aggressive in rebuilding because I'm not interested in being competitive later. I want to completely transform my roster and have more value than I have points. And then as the season plays out, I want to try and make moves to improve that situation pretty much straight away.
Because to me, there's kind of 2 types of rebuilds, right? There's the one that you can do on the fly. And from 7th place, I think you can pretty easily turn a 7th place team into a contender within, a month or 2. You can also tear it to the ground,
I think in a vacuum, not seeing the roster, I would assume tearing it down is the best holistic answer. But you're right. I mean, if you're a Najee Harris or a top 5 running back away, then that should be your focus. Yeah, that's a good point. What do they call that? Retooling rather than rebuilding or something?
Yeah, retool. Yeah, to me, it starts with an audit of the team and of your roster, and just say, like, what is it that led me to 7th place? Like, obviously, I thought that this was going to be a team that was going to compete. I ended up missing the playoffs. What happened there? Like, what was the problem? Because in some cases, maybe your players underperformed. Maybe they lost some value as a result. But there are also a lot of teams that had, for instance, Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey on the same roster.
That's what I was going to say. If that's why you're 7th, then you're not 7th. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's not really a rebuild necessarily. I still think you should trade away Christian McCaffrey, but you don't even have to do that.
Yeah, just but it's kind of one way or the other. But I do think the extreme works in all circumstances, because you're going to you're going to rebuild your team that way.
Yeah.
Whereas the retooling is much more, if I don't like my team, I don't think it's good, I don't think it has enough value, and I took your question to be that, Sean, then I don't want to go out and pay for my projection. That's like a rule. I'm trying to pencil in my trades just because I think this player is going to be better than the ADP suggests. I'm not paying for that. I'm not going to pay you for what I think is going to happen. I'm trying to get him for the value that he's currently at. I did that way too much last year with Myles Gaskin. I like the player a lot. I really thought he had a lot of upside from where his ADP was, but everyone wanted to nickel and dime the trade, and I accepted it. It's like sometimes you got to pay for the guy you want. And Myles Gaskin's a terrible example, obviously, because he didn't fail and he didn't succeed. But the same could be said for Saquon or CMC or even who did I miss on last year? CEH. He was one of the ones I had as a top 10 takes for the season. I really felt it. If I paid for what I thought CEH might do, I've really hurt my team by now But if I got him for what his value was, then it was okay, and that's why I liked him.
Yeah.
So especially if I don't like my team, it's time to listen to that rule. And that's why I say it's easier. I don't care what I'm getting, just that the value is in those players. You might not like DK Metcalf, but he's worth a lot more right now than a lot of other players, even though it's falling. And I think it's reasonable to assume that the fall is just what's going to happen with Russell Wilson. I still think it's a pretty good player. And so I'm interested in investing in him. So
yeah,
it's not nearly as complicated as the stock market, but yeah, just don't pay for what might happen. That's an easier way of saying it. When you're trying to fix your team, you're not interested in what might happen. You're allowed to just think what is and move on from there and switch it more into value. Now, what's Bob saying over here? Because I spent way too long saying the same thing. Selling A.J. Brown, Metcalf, and Denver wide receivers. Selling Russell Wilson, Burrow, and I don't have any but cash in on Tua. I think what he's essentially saying is anyone that sees a value increase, trade away if your team's building. And that would be more of a way of retooling, I think, than rebuilding. Because then you're just taking advantage of the slight increases. I don't know why he's got AJ Brown there, because he's been falling, and so's Metcalf. Maybe he's actually just saying he's out on those players.
Yeah, I think so. And that's kind of Twitter's been all over AJ Brown the last couple days.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of strange to me. I mean, maybe I missed a news cycle or something, but it's really just kind of based on the injury and. Yeah, that was. It seems like that's kind of it. There's a sentiment out there that he's kind of a declining asset, and it feels way too early with AJ Brown to. I mean, like anybody, you can sell anyone, if it makes sense, if the price is right, but.
Sorry, I can't get that done, but we got a question on Twitter I want to go to as well. Carry on.
Yeah. I don't know. It feels too early, but I mean, if you're getting, if you're able to sell AJ Brown as a top 5 wide receiver, go for it.
That's fair. I think he has. Actually, that's a good example. Like, I think AJ Brown is a top 5 receiver, but he's not valued there, so I don't go out and pay for it. You know, especially if I'm building, I trade it away. Yeah, that's fair.
But the rest of those guys, well, I don't know. Metcalf too. That it feels like the wrong time to be selling DK Metcalf too. It's based
both
on
24 years old, but I appreciate Bob's. If you're building, it doesn't really matter what you think's going to happen, right?
Sure.
I get his point there. That's a fair. That's probably a better way of looking at it. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Rob on Twitter asks if you have time for a question. Literally all we have time for, Rob. Appreciate it. Which side of this trade? Mac Jones, Michael Pittman, and a 23-second, or Fields, Gallup, and the 111? Superflex.
Let's see. What was the first side? It was Mac Jones,
Pittman,
and
a 23-second, if it matters. And then the other side is Fields. So essentially it's Mac for Fields, Pittman for Gallup, and a second for a first.
Yeah.
But a second makes good.
That really is kind of what it comes down to, right? Like, first round pick this year, or wait a year for a second round pick. That's kind of what I think that Fields has more. Well, I know that he has significantly more upside than Mac Jones. But we don't really care too much about that in Superflex when we're talking about the quarterbacks. You're really just looking for guys with long-term with a job long-term. Both of those guys should have that. So
I don't think I want to. For me, the 111 is worth more than a second next year, and I think that's what might be conflicting here, because I think most trade calculators will have that about even at this point. But I don't want to pay.
Really?
I don't want to pay like that difference to go up to Michael Pittman, and I think that's a real change here. I do like Mac Jones, but Fields is fine because he can run, hopefully at least. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Fields is more likely a bust. Mac Jones is more likely to never be a top 5 quarterback,
right? Or top 12 quarterback, even. I mean, he's got a safe floor with just the lowest ceiling of really any starter in the league.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like I said, I think that you can just go 1-for-1 at both quarterback and wide receiver in that trade. And then you're talking about, do you want to make a pick this year at 111, or do you want to wait a year, see where that second round pick lands, and then make that pick in a better class? But that's a long wait for a chance. That could be a late second. So yeah, give me Fields more than anything. Give me 111.
Yeah. It's pretty even, but we lean the field side. And that sucks because I like Mac Jones. But I like Gallup and the 111 better. So that's just where we're at.
Yeah.
Mayday, I'm at the 912. I don't. Is it a startup maybe? Yeah, Superflex startup. Just keep reading, Pete. The answer might be right there for me now. Actually, I struggle. I feel like I have to go Matt Corral here, seeing as he's probably the best value since there's only Howell, Strong, Daniel Jones, Baker, Trubisky left. I would go look at ADP. Honestly, just make up your mind of if that, because one of the things that does happen to Superflex is you start looking at the quarterbacks that are left and thinking, well, I got to grab the only one that's left. Mm-hmm. But no one's going to take a quarterback for 2 rounds. So you've got time, kind of a thing. As for rookie quarterback evaluations, I don't got none. So honestly, either hopefully I have 3 by this time, or I'll just wait and take Jones. Well, I'll take Baker, Jones if I really have to, as my quarterback 3, hopefully by that point. But it also depends who else is on the clock. The 9th round, there's a lot of good players inside the top 10. I'm going to have to go look. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is if you go with a rookie, I love Matt Corral, but it's just, there are not enough jobs available for all these rookie quarterbacks. And again, I mean, talking about Malik Willis, he looks good compared to the rest of this class. But it's kind of that there's that same effect for all of these guys. It looks like a stronger class, deeper class than it is, because there's several of them who are, roughly the same skill set, roughly the same talent level. And the problem is, once you shuffle them in to the entire quarterback universe in the NFL, this is mostly backup quarterbacks. This is Malik Willis is going to start somewhere. One other guy is probably going to start somewhere, and I can't tell you which one it is. I don't know.
And it really depends. It depends a little bit on how you've drafted already. Because if you have 2 quarterbacks, I'm like, I don't think one of those guys goes for 2 rounds. Like, that's what my guess is. And looking at ADP, I don't know how it would fit in. But that's what's going to happen to Baker Mayfield on average. It's going to be 2 rounds before anyone drafts him. And in that time, you've got like Rashad Bateman. He's around that ADP. Juju Smith-Schuster, who I like a lot. Michael Carter, who you like. I don't, but whatever. So there are really good players that I think are being undervalued because of age, or maybe people not respecting what they did their rookie year, or so on and so forth, that I would be more interested in taking, because I think I can get at least one of those guys in 2 rounds, or at least the next round. So that's my guess.
Probably. It does feel like you probably have to take one here. If I mean, it kind of like if we're that far into a startup and it's like, I mean, I've got maybe one quarterback. I think you're trying to get 2 more out of this draft anyways. So I think you do have to take one at the turn, just because it's such a long wait till it gets back to you. So, for me, it would probably be Trubisky or Daniel Jones. I think Jones is probably a little safer. Trubisky gives you a little bit more upside, but I mean, like it does feel like you probably have to take one, and then you're probably going to be looking at those. I am with you that those rookies are probably going to make it back to the next turn for you.
I mean, Pickett's going 70th overall. I don't know where he lines up on rookie picks, but and here's the only other thing I'd say. If you're in the 9th round, you only have one quarterback in a startup, Superflex. Well, learn that. You should have 2 by then. And I'm someone who typically waits.
5.
John hates me because he drafts 5. I tend to.
This is why, by the way, I start. So I do start in the first round, even when it feels like a little bit of a reach, because reaching past Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson for Dak Prescott or Matthew Stafford, even guys like that
feels weird.
It doesn't feel great, but it feels so much better than doing it now. Like there's going to be some startable wide receivers and running backs available at 9-12, and yet we're trying to sift through the bottom of the barrel quarterbacks. It's going to feel so much worse to reach for Daniel Jones right now than it would have to reach for whatever quarterback in the first round.
I maintain it matters which quarterback. Like, I'll take a couple of the top tier guys early rounds, and it feels weird, Nicky, but I'll do it because that's because I know I can grab a few starting players at wide receiver or running back, depending on what your fancy is. And then they go in higher on that second tier of quarterback. So I overdraft Kirk Cousins and the Derek Carrs of the world rather than miss out on that first tier of running back and wide receiver. But I mean, it's the same approach. You want multiple by the time you get to round 10. But yeah, good luck, Mayday. Stephen Peterson, what's the best team name you have seen someone have?
Oh man,
it's usually Zach. Actually, he's normally the only creative one in my leagues. Mine are called like Pete's team and number 4 Superflex and. Let's see. I
have a vampire league. It's a Superflex, the Superflex Super Show listener league, and it's a vampire league with 6 divisions. And they came up with some really cool names for that. Now it's specific to the format. It's a bunch of stuff about the garlic grenadiers and stuff like that, but. That's probably my favorite. There's a bunch of good ones in that league.
Sorry, I'm looking over my rosters now because I pay so little attention. But yeah, Zach's team in one league is called Christian McRapity. Don't really know what that's about, but it's pretty funny. Let's see. All mine are like terrible. I don't do good team names. I gave up. I see relatively little creativity in team names in my league. That's what I can tell you.
Yeah.
Actually, probably one of the best I've got is John Bosch calls his team Jeremy Beremy, which is a everything's going to be fine reference.
Yeah, the good place. Yeah.
One that is literally the worst team name I've ever seen, and it's mine because I thought it was really cool at the time, and I thought it was all smart and fancy. I call mine Never Say Never because it sounds like I'm saying something about fantasy football, but at the time I was really into the Matrix, and to me it sounded like Nebuchadnezzar. You see the weird ass segue there, but it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Now I think about it, I should definitely not have done that. Yeah. I could pivot and pick Pollard, Gesicki, Hunt. I mean, Hunt, CEH, Rashad White, the only ones I'd be interested in on that list.
But see, when you rather have those guys than Daniel Jones, if you didn't feel like you had to take quarterback right there, I would much rather have Gesicki or Hunt.
Huh. Sorry, I can't hear with these headphones on. There is like an amazingly large storm going on outside, like shaking the windows storm. So if I disappear, just hold the show for me.
Okay.
I guess I'd appreciate it. Yeah, might die. No, never know. Gonna take this off just in case that does happen. Yeah, honestly, looking at that list again, I'd probably rather have. If I'm building a competitive roster, I'd rather have Hunt or CEH. If I'm not, if I've been more building for value, then yeah, just go quarterback. Yeah. Whichever one of those you took your fancy, to be honest. House probably got the more upside just because he's a rookie, but he's also most likely to have 0 value this time next year. Fox Valley. Hey guys, what? I honestly don't know what's going on. I'm very lost today. There's a some sort of storm outside. Zach's not here. Russ isn't here, which is actually more than usual when you think. Like the person who likes me least in the world is here. That's fun. Appreciate you being here, though.
Of course.
Hiya, fellas. Gavin Grant says, kind of freaking out over Carter. Michael Carter. Has there been news on Michael Carter lately? Like someone rumoring that they might draft a running back, and they might draft a running back. That's fair. A lot of people are saying the Jets are drafting Brees. Okay, there you go. Yeah. Again, Pete, just read the comment to the end, then think of things to say. Do I take this offer? Carter for Tony in a 1.03? No. Tony? Hang on. That's Kadarius Tony? Maybe. Even I think that's a little low for Tony's value.
Yeah.
I would trade him the minute he does something good, because I'm not sure about his long-term potential, but his rookie stats were good in a smaller sample. And he's going to do something exciting, because that's literally what Tony does on the field. So yeah. I think his value is going to increase. I'd be interested in that trade. Yeah, I would. How about you, John?
No, I'd keep Carter. I mean, Tony, we're really kind of getting into a bucket of wide receivers where it's just like they're all so interchangeable. And I know that you hate when I talk about this, but like it just.
Whereas our quarterbacks are all dynamic and different, I've noticed. That's true. I mean, you've got Derek Carr, and you've got. Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay, fair enough. But I mean, you've got like 100 or something wide receivers that are all just kind of. It's not that Kadarius Toney is worse than, I don't know, Tim Patrick. It's just that like, what is the actual difference in weekly scoring between those two going to be? And even more than that, what's the path for Kadarius Toney, or any one of those guys to actually get into your lineup? Like, especially if the goal is to get kind of the cream of the crop type of guys at wide receiver, it's going to get to a point where there's just kind of no reason to ever take, blank out of your, wide receiver one out of your lineup to put in Kadarius Toney. Like there's no reason to do it. It's not like there's a matchup that, favors one over the other or anything like that. It's just so Kadarius Toney just takes up space on your bench, where Michael Carter
over who?
Yeah, I mean anyone.
I mean, this is a weird one because Tony's more a value proposition for me, but I think you feel this way because you refuse to accept that like math exists. Like that's no different than quarterback, except it's more exaggerated at quarterback. Like that's the same.
I have literally
like there's
never
never a reason to take Patrick Mahomes out your lineup and start Derek Carr if those are your choices. But hopefully,
well, that's not true though.
Not I mean, choice.
in Pat Mahomes isn't a great example because he literally has been a top 7 quarterback, something like that, like literally every week, with the exception of
he's been fairly terrible at that the last few weeks. Josh Allen is actually a better example the last 2 years, but yeah, Karen.
Yeah. But I mean, you even just move down the tier of quarterbacks just a little bit to guys like Joe Burrow and Dak Prescott. And there were times where it would have made sense and, logically you would have made the move to bench that guy, bench Joe Burrow and put in Derek Carr because Derek Carr had a better matchup and therefore had a higher ceiling. We know that their floor, like to your point, the floor is the same.
It's just that's not true. Like wide receiver scoring is a lot more variable week to week. So if anything, you should be more likely to bench your stud wide receiver.
But how do you know when to bench, Cooper Kupp?
How do you know when to bench Patrick? Oh, Joe Burrow.
When he's playing the what's a particularly good defense? I don't know, the Rams. For instance,
same way,
or
there
the Patriots.
Same way, there you go. They're both about as good to read them in terms of matchups. Like, it's not easier to read quarterback matchups and wide receiver matchups, and we miss them, about the same rate. That's my feeling on. I
Yeah.
have feelings, and therefore they are valid. But we should probably giddy up.
I
What's your
disagree.
take? That's fair. What's your take on Pittman and Tyreek this year? I think Tyreek is going to be fine. I think Pittman, to me, he's a sell because I think we saw his ceiling last year. I think he's a really good wide receiver. He's better than I thought he was going to be. I think that's it. His value's kind of there, but I'm interested in seeing what I can get for the value instead of Pittman. Tyreek's fine. I mean, he made Alex Smith pretty decent. Alex Smith had like his best career year with Tyreek Hill. There's an interrelationship between quarterback and wide receiver, and everyone wants to admit that the wide receiver is a little QB dependent, and no one wants to admit that the QB is a little wide receiver dependent. So I just lean on that. Tyreek's going to be fine. Yep. Unfortunately, it's not like I like the dude. I don't want him to succeed or nothing, but he'll be fine.
Yeah, that trade, I'm loading up on 23 first, but that's still just not quite enough for me because again, Pittman is another one of those interchangeable guys to me.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah,
Tyreek is a guy that you really kind of set it and forget it.
If your team sucks and you're doing what, and don't take that the wrong way, like a lot of my teams suck. I look at them, and if I'm being honest with myself, that's not what I want it to look like. And therefore it sucks. Like it's black or white for me. And then yes, because that's doing what we were talking about with Mayday earlier. Like you're just going for value. That first is more likely to increase, more certain to increase in value. More people are likely to be interested in it. So I just go get the pick. But if you feel good about your team or great about your team, like in any of those situations, I just take Tyreek's points. And if you don't like that, you can literally do the opposite because it's your team. It's cool. But there's an opinion on it.
That should be like the disclaimer on all of this, by the way.
It's been what I've been saying, everything I've ever written. It's like, ultimately, here's my opinion. Here's what I would do. You, if you don't like that, should tell me to go stick it. It's your team. And then if you get it right, you should come tell me how right you were and how stupid I was. Like, ultimately, that's why we're here. I think our main function is to be someone to make fun of or be mad at if it works out or doesn't. If you know what I mean? Like
scapegoat, yeah.
Everyone pretending I have the secret to Dynasty. I've played against you. No, you don't. I know I don't. I know you don't know more than me. There are better and worse decisions, but most of them are black. Most of them are gray instead of black and white. Not all of them, but most of them are gray. And you should use people as a sounding board. Do I like the way that sounded? Nope. Going the other way. You ride your horse. The only slight caveat to that is in a league you take particularly seriously. Like you're in with your friends and you just got to beat them. Or there's a lot of money on the line. There are better and worse decisions in a gray zone. Yeah. But the edge is so small, it's only worth it if the risk, the upside is worth it to honestly consider. So mostly, it's okay to just say, I don't like the end of that.
There's an opportunity, though, for someone like fantasy football analysts to do a live show every week and just answer the question with, I don't know, whichever you like better.
Like that's the only answer. I'm always very clear to give an answer. Hey man, your feelings are valid. Go with those. And like I'm always very certain to give, here's my definitive answer. But like you can do the opposite. Just a reminder. Like it's not like there's a lot of gray. Giddy up. Also, Acres worth throwing a first at. 23 first. Tyreek and the two for Acres and Pitt. I don't think Acres is a top 12. I think if he gets to the top 12, he's more like Joe Mixon. He's more like Antonio Gibson last year, where he's top 12. But it feels disappointing. I don't think he has that difference-making upside. I think he's an incredible player. It's got nothing to do with them as players. We're playing fantasy football, not actual football. So just remind, before you come at me, Acres Horde. I'll just throw that out there. So I probably lean value in most cases. But, to John's point earlier, you have to start players. And Acres is a better start than a whole bunch, maybe is the word I'm looking for, of other players. So if I think I'm a decent starting running back away, and they can be the most difficult to find, then I'd pay a first for that. But you'll know that in season. Like there's no, and this is a 23 first, so you don't have to throw it now. It's kind of why I don't trade for a lot of running backs this early, or in this part of the off season.
Yeah.
Like I think if that team is interested in trading Akers for a first, 23 first, now they'll be interested in it in middle of August when you can see where your roster's at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very true.
So I would hold off.
Yep.
And by then, hopefully, Tyreek Hill scored points, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's still going to do that. Oh, cool." And you have even more leverage, hopefully. Fox Valley Wrestling. Hey guys, what are your thoughts on trading for youth draft picks and startup drafts and going instant rebuild? I believe they call it productive struggle, but okay. Yeah. Especially, I think my boss created that term, so I have to say it. Especially if most leagues are, I mean, the ultimate answer is you've got to read your draft, right? If everyone's going productive struggle and you can get top five running backs one after the other, then probably do that, But that's an extreme example. So how your draft goes and what your league is like is going to have a lot to do with that. But the reason productive struggle works and is a thing in Dynasty, and why Dynasty players are overly interested in value, is that it works in a vacuum, if you know what I mean. Like, you can't completely foul out by going productive struggle, leaning draft picks and youth, because you're going to be able to trade those things. Yeah. But, that got real popular around 2014, 2015. And over the next 2 years, I pointed out that if you'd done that in those years, 2015, 16, and 17, your team sucked. You probably did foul out. It is possible to foul out going productive struggling, because the draft classes can just genuinely suck. And you have to wait 3 years before any gems emerge and then hope that you were the one with those gems. There's a risk we're actually entering that kind of period. We just saw 2020. We just saw 2021. Great draft classes. 23 is meant to be pretty good. This year, not so much. So you've got to do it within reason. In a vacuum, it works more than most strategies in Dynasty. But if all your friends are going productive struggle, it could bite you.
Yeah.
Sorry, John.
Yeah. And it's tough because you're probably not going to have that information, until you're a couple rounds in. So, you still have to make your first couple picks.
Which is why the early prospects the younger prospects tend to be up there anyway for a Dynasty startup, because if you take, it's like weird stuff. Like you take, I have ADP pulled up here, don't I? Let's look at running back. It's like taking, I clicked on the wrong one. I was thinking like Swift over Javonte Williams, or Breece Hall over Barkley. It's because they're younger. You've got more leeway. And so that's the other reason Dynasty players do that. It sounds weird when you ever talk to redraft players and but they're not going to be better. No, maybe not. But I can it doesn't hurt as bad if they're not, because they're still around. Sorry, we really went off point there. I think it's a good strategy, but I tend to... Really?
I don't.
Productive struggle is a good strategy, but I don't often find myself doing it, because I think you can play both a lot easier. You can get points and you can get value, and the first year is the easiest year to win in Dynasty. It's the only one that's like a redraft league, so you can actually make more actionable decisions because you're only predicting a year out, which is difficult enough. Trying to predict 2 years out, it becomes very much I hope next year isn't 2015,
Yeah. So to me, productive struggle is really best, several years in. Like you do your startup, you build your team, go win some championships, and then you find out that you're not getting full value for these veteran players who have been winning for you. And so instead of trading them, you just keep winning until they just retire on your roster. Then you go into productive struggle mode. I don't think it's a good strategy in the startup. I really don't. And the big reason is like what productive struggle and competing in a dynasty league, in any fantasy league, what it really kind of comes down to is the running backs, right? Like we know that we've all heard stories of people, winning championships with just the worst duo of quarterbacks. John Bosch always loves to tell the story about the time he won with Eli Manning and Jimmy Garoppolo. He won a championship with that. We see all the time where you find wide receivers that kind of, they were either super cheap and they broke out, or, maybe you even got them off of waivers. That happens all the time too. The one position that that kind of makes or breaks your success is running back. And so to go productive struggle in the startup, what we're really saying is you don't take any running backs. You just go young at wide receiver. You go young
Not
at quarterback.
necessarily, because the running backs right now, there are very few young ones.
Yeah.
And running backs, this is, I think, something I've come to understand better the more I've played Dynasty. The value drops, the production doesn't. The production is remarkably more as stable as wide receiver. Like the repeat rates are relatively similar between wide receivers and running backs until you get to like the top 2, top 3 players.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And players' career arcs, running backs are more likely to break out year 1, but second contract running backs don't seem to see a drastic dip in overall PPR production per Adam Harstead, despite the fact it feels like they're dead the minute they need a second contract.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the value is the problem, much more so than their points. Like Ezekiel Elliott this year should play well if he doesn't get hurt, the same as Jonathan Taylor. But Jonathan Taylor is up here and Ezekiel Elliott's down here.
Right.
And honestly, it's the age discount that for me makes me feel like you can do both. In most drafts, you can actually do both. You don't have to be extreme one way or the other. Trying to be extreme one way or the other makes it feel simple. You've got an answer every round. But honestly, it doesn't necessarily give you the best team to compete and to keep competing, because you can miss and you're projecting too far out, and sometimes a draft class sucks. And you don't know that when you're drafting. I will say this, though. I think it's viable. Read your draft, do it. And draft picks do tend to be undervalued in a startup. Much like the way John was talking about quarterbacks, it's hard to take a pick over Michael Thomas. Even though we're down on Michael Thomas, it's like, yeah, but I know what that is. Juju Smith-Schuster's risky this year. The 107 is just, it could be Rondell Moore, who everyone hates now. That was a good draft pick for Rondell Moore. So you can actually stock up and then know that by the time draft season rolls around, they become a lot more tradable. But that's, again, where it comes down to, this is the first time playing with these people, you really don't know. But I'm assuming they're degenerates if they're all signing up for a startup in general. But if you do know them, you can know that they don't value rookie picks, and you can make those kind of decisions. But in a vacuum, productive struggle is the safest way to do a startup, I think, because value tends to be easier to predict than points. But the first year is the easiest year to win. And honestly, I've never done a draft where I felt like there was only one way I could have won it, if you know what I mean. Like I had to be extreme youth and value. I think you can play both relatively well in all leagues. I think this is where we came into best ball and DFS, and we start thinking immediate and immediate upside and also return on the decisions we make. With Dynasty, there's a little bit of a long game to play with that, if you know what I mean. What am I saying here? We're going extreme for the upside DFS. Makes perfect sense. You put yourself on a knife edge, you stack a roster, and that's the way to try and win $1 million or whatever. But in Dynasty, there's no reason that you have to go on that knife edge. You can play a much broader base, and your team can be a lot safer either direction, and you can still be competitive. You know what I mean? And so if you plan to be in that league for multiple years, that's a better way of doing it in general. Yeah.
To a point where even when you do intend to go productive struggle, there's so many ways for this to work out for you that a lot of times you end up being competitive in year one, even though you built this young roster that was meant to struggle for a year. And then everybody grows up together. We see it all the time where those rosters go win a championship. And what happens along the way is you kind of wish that you had spent a little bit more draft capital on some veteran players in the startup because, all of a sudden you're a contender and you're just kind of missing that piece, missing, a guy or two who has that established type of role that you don't have because you just got a bunch of rookies who are fighting for playing time.
I should run numbers on this someday. I've never tried to quantify draft strategy, but there is a path to fading the sleeper rounds. Like you've got rounds 1 to 4, which are basically just the elite tier prospects at every position, and some people reaching on a few deeper plays that they like. And then you've got rounds 5 to 8 or so, where people are taking good players, sometimes veteran players who have performed well previously. But they're all we're expecting more from them. We think we're getting them at a value. And in that range, you can just go pure value. Give me the rookie picks. Give me the young players that might blow up to be Justin Jefferson, or they might be nothing like Corey Davis. That's painful to say.
Oh.
And then going back to veterans, because there are a lot of veterans that fall past that point that no one wants. That's when people start taking the young guys because they know the vets aren't worth anything, or they take their backup running backs. I mean, I don't know. That was a rough map. Don't quote me on it. But I think there's a way of looking at ADP to see that kind of patterning, where there's a range where people are taking good players, but you could just load up on value, draft picks or young players, just because so many sleepers bust. We lose so many players every year to reality,
Yeah.
Sorry, we spent too long on that, Fox. I hope we gave you some sort of information about it. I think it's a good way to go. But I wouldn't say you have to do it. I wouldn't lean over it too much. You got to read.
And I don't think
it's
a good. I don't think it's a good.
John doesn't like it at all. He's like, just win.
I wouldn't do it in a startup. Yeah.
And I like both of those extremes. It gives you an answer. First round, who should I take? I'm taking the good running back because I'm gonna win this year. Or you go, I'm taking the wide receiver 1 because that's that, and it makes the decision easier. And there's something to be said about that.
Yeah,
because you know what your team is, you have a plan, and you know how to move forward. And there's something to be said for that.
Yeah,
BG Lay, thoughts on squad 1? Okay. QB, 1 QB. Herbert, Eckler, Monty, Mitchell, Rojo, Higgins. You can read them. Landry, Judy, Juju, Gabe Davis, Gabe Davis, Kelsey, Albert O. Those are my main players. What would you do? I kind of love and hate these questions, by the way. You get them a lot. You see them a lot in the DLF forum. I get them a lot in general in DMs. Like, what do I do now? I'm like, I don't know. Who's in your league? I'll go talk to them. I can tell you who I'm high and low on. Where is this team right now, in your opinion, John? Is it top 3, bottom 3, or in the middle?
I think it's probably kind of in the middle, to be honest with you. There's first of all, we're light at running back. It could honestly use some upgrades at wide receiver too. And there's also some incongruencies. Like, I don't like having Herbert and Eckler on the same roster, going into the same lineup, just because they kind of cancel each other out. Right? But I mean, it's
great.
It's not.
You're so
it's not quite
in a different place for me, and that's great, because if I just hear things I understand, then I would learn nothing. So keep going.
Yeah. I mean, it's not quite as bad when you're talking about a quarterback and a pass catching running back. But the problem is, when you get down around the 1 yard line, most likely, Austin Eckler scores a touchdown, which necessarily means Justin Herbert can't score a touchdown, and I don't like that. I mean, you kind of have the same thing here with Jerry Jeudy and Albert O. That's actually an even better example, because if Jerry Jeudy catches a pass, it means that's one less opportunity for Albert O. So, I would rather just diversify it a little bit, break up some of those stacks. But, I mean, I think that this team's close. More than anything, I'd just like to see a little bit more running back depth.
All right, so me being me, I'm gonna break it into stages. Let's really dig down and spend a good hour talking about BJ's team here instead of talking to anyone else. But no, just quickly, and you can do the opposite. But here's what I would do if this was my team. I'd look at it in a 1 QB league and say, well, Herbert's great, but it doesn't matter here. So the first stage is most teams are in the middle, and this team is definitely in the middle. So I've either got to decide to go up or decide to go down. In general, it's not like I can achieve either, but I can try to be working in one direction or the other. I'm not going to make stupid trades just to make sure I get to the bottom, for example, or make stupid trades to try to get to the top. It's freaking April. I had to check. So I don't have to make a lot of running back moves right now. Like we were saying earlier, I tend to like to wait to before or even in season before I try and make a lot of running back moves. Just because of the gauntlet the running backs run in the off season. And that's really where you have to concentrate to elevate your team to that top, I believe. So what I'm seeing is good scoring running backs. Eckler, Monty should be fine. I think Rojo, Mitchell are nothing, but I do think Mitchell could have some value here or there. Rojo could flex for you some days, whatever. Ultimately, I think you've got Eckler and Monty. They're much more points and value players. Not a lot of people are willing to pay up for them. Eckler's undrafted and Monty's Monty. He's always been more points and value. But it's solid, you know? And then when I look at your wide receivers, the way I think the season's going to play out, Higgins, Judy, and Juju are great starts. Gabe Davis has potential. I'm not saying he doesn't, but right now his value is insane. Like, check him on Keep Trade Cut. Check him on DLF ranks. Like, he's valued with Marcus Brown, Jerry Judy. He's valued as a player who's already got 2 top 24 PPR seasons under his belt. That's a little hot for me. If that's what he is in your league, he's overvalued. And Kelsey is a win now player. Just is. And Albert O is nice depth. You could have another great tight end. So I like second stage is what can I do to move up or down and which is the best way to go. As John pointed out, it's close. I think if you were to package up, trade Higgins, Mitchell, Monty, Eckler, if you could go get like a top running back one, Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris, even CMC and Barkley, but with draft capital added because they have injury risks, as John is no doubt about to scream in my ear. Like a guy I honestly think could be a top 3 running back or should be a top 3 running back next year. And this team is immediately competitive with 3 wide receivers who should be putting up really solid numbers every week, most weeks. And Kelsey in your tight end position. And suddenly you do have a top 3 team for next year, at least. Yeah. So the third stage is that going to be possible? I don't know your league, man. If people really like, if Higgins is valued like he is in ADP, you should be able to use him and say Mitchell or Rojo and go get Barkley, CMC, or even safer, Najee or JT. Pretty, not easily, but you should be able to get him. And suddenly this team is really competitive for next year. You don't have to do that right now because I don't think any of those values are changing. And running backs have an injury gauntlet to run. But I would be really interested in pushing for this year because I always am. And that's where I'm looking. It's not like I don't want Higgins on my roster. It's that he's the best piece I have to try to change my running backs from good to great. And if I can change Eckler or Monty into a top 3 running back, I think with the other 2 wide receivers that you'd have left, and you can find some other depth as you go, as John was pointing out with wide receiver, then it could be really competitive. But is that I don't think just having Higgins gives me the value to do that. I'll be honest with you. That's probably the way I would go because I want to compete every year. But the best dynasty strategy here is probably to see what you can get for Higgins. Honestly, add some value, see if you can add some wide receiver depth and keep your team rolling. So you're competitive this year, but you're also getting stronger as the year progresses because you have more value and more draft capital. So yeah, because it's in the middle, and I would lean compete. I want to start Higgins, Judy, and Juju. And I want to do something, whether it's with my first round pick or not, to try and improve one of my running back positions. But it depends on your league. How often do trades happen? Is someone likely to trade you a running back one? Stuff like that. Like, also, where's your draft pick? Like, if I can get Breece Hall, I'm much more excited about this team right now.
Yeah.
What do I have to add to Eckler, say, who I really love, to get to the Breece Hall pick in my rookie draft? And then your team is top 5, if not top 3, kind of level of getting to the top level of the playoffs. And then we're just looking at variance. But yeah. What do you think of that, John?
Yeah, no, I agree. And yeah, it's definitely not a, tear it down and rebuild it type of roster. So yeah, Brees Hall would be great. I think that there are running backs that you can with some value that you can take advantage of right now.
I think where it's in the middle, it is tear it down, or not completely, but lean tear it down, should we say, or compete.
Yeah,
and I would make a list of running backs you would feel comfortable with. If it's not CMC and Barkley, which I would be okay with, then it's Najee Harris and Jonathan Taylor, and it's Brees Hall. And if you make some trade offers to see if you can get one of those on your roster, and if not, immediately start going the other direction. That seems fair.
Yeah, definitely.
If you can make a move to get one of those running backs who would make like the 3 running backs you want most for this year, if you can make moves to get in a position to draft Brees Hall or get whoever's on your list, then I would compete this year. If not, I would start looking at shopping value. Yeah. I don't think T. Higgins can get more valuable per ADP. And again, it might not be true in your league, but like he's a top 12 wide receiver in Dynasty. And it's not that I don't think that's right. It's that what can he do to get higher than that? Like Jamar Chase gets hurt and he scores both their points somehow, So that's why, like, I have T. Higgins on just a terrible roster. It's nowhere near as good as this one, and I'm trying to trade him, but everyone I've offered him to in that league has like been, nah, my team's terrible, man. I'm building. Which is actually, I don't know what it is for you, John, but I feel like in our leagues or in the leagues I'm in, like everyone is always building. They're always interested in the value, which is probably why I lean more compete more often, because it's a path of least resistance to me normally.
Yeah, we've just kind of evolved in general, like this entire industry, and especially, I mean, the league that you and I are in together, it's with a bunch of DLF guys. So, it's not what it used to be with my brother-in-law who doesn't pay attention to anything until September. We don't have that anymore. And people have kind of figured out the patterns of the fantasy calendar, and it really just kind of is, trade in utility for currency in early in the year, and then as we get closer to the season, you trade in that currency for utility.
I know. I saw Dave Wright at FS Spaceman on Twitter. He's got a database. You should check it out. It's free and pretty cool. And he's got a Patreon too, but it is free. I heard him say something interesting a couple of weeks ago. Just the one thing. He's only ever said one thing that stood out. No, it's been running around the back of my head with I should do something with that. He was on a podcast and he said Dynasty is not about risk tolerance. It's about mitigating risk. And I thought that's true, but also an interesting thought, because that's almost where the best Dynasty moves come from. When someone else is playing risk tolerance, you can mitigate risk, if you know what I mean. Like if they're scared of AJ Brown because of injury risk and they can't tolerate that risk, you can play risk mitigation by taking AJ Brown at a value. And that's almost the entire game somehow. But again, it's rolling around in the back of my head. There's something there and I can't quite find it, if you know what I mean. But that's what I'm thinking with BJ Lee's team here. Like, don't worry about how tolerant you are of the risk. You should try and compete. But if you can't get in a place where you are able to take that risk reasonably, then it's time to just turn it around, start looking for value. Hopefully that helps. I don't know. We talk so long about these things, and I wonder if we ever get to a nugget. But let us know, BJ. Yeah,
and I would say
these questions, because they are the answer. It's like, I'm doing this. What should I do? I stare at my teams and think the same thing. And, again, the geniuses in the Dynasty space are like, oh, just do this. And it sounds so simple, but having played a lot and researched a lot, I found none of it. Really, it's just what happens and what the person in your league is willing to trade. And so there's never been that clear answer, never actually works out for me. And so I always stay more, here's some ideas, try them. You know what I mean? Bob Gilchrist, I don't know. Go for it.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, like, that's the brilliance of that, of the idea of the the fantasy show where it's just empowering people to do what they wanted to already do.
I believe in you. Do what you want to do.
Yeah, if that's what you want to do, you do that. I love that for you. Like, because I mean that really is kind of what it comes down to. It's how do you I mean, does this make this roster feel like, something that you can win with? If it makes you feel better about your roster, then hell yeah, do it.
BJ, you send an offer to everyone in your league, Gabe Davis for a first-round pick any year. And
True.
if that goes through, you use that first-round pick to try and bump up one of your running backs to that top tier.
Yeah.
That's what I should have probably just said. Simple as. And if it doesn't, then okay. So let's see if Gabe Davis does well in the season, and then you can try and do something with him.
Yeah. Also, DK Metcalf and Hollywood Brown do not help make that a contender, in my opinion.
No, they're more.
It makes the team better, but
yeah.
It's running back is where we need some upgrades.
To win in a season, you need improved. The best way to do it is try and improve your running backs. Yeah. Even though if you have 3 top 12 wide receivers, your running backs don't matter. You can just start top 24 guys, and they are top 24 ranked running backs are overvalued because the reason they're in the top 24 is everyone thinks they can be top 12. But the actual top 24 running backs, the James Whites of the world, honestly, the Myles Gaskins of the world, they come cheap. So you can go either way, but standard is, try and improve your running backs because they're a little rarer, a little easier to spot. Sorry, I keep clicking on Bob's comment and then forgetting to read it. I didn't know Twitter was out. I was out last year on him. He is older than all of his comps. Well, yeah, so's Terry McLaurin and everyone that's 25. Everyone forgets rookies that are drafted at 22 years old become 25 quicker. There's a point. They're good and they're like, oh, great, a young player. It's like, no, already in your old category because you overvalue age. Yeah. Jake, how you doing, buddy? Trade the 104, the 301, 305, and a 23 third for Akers and the 110. No. Wait. Yes. I would. This is a 104. The thirds don't matter. Stop trying to confuse me. This is a 104 for Akers and the 110. If it's a single quarterback league, yes. If it's a super flex, no. There you go.
Really? I think it would be the opposite for me. I would do it in a super flex. I would take Akers and 110 because my feeling on it is obviously you would get a better wide receiver at 104, but I don't think that it's going to be a huge difference between the wide receiver you would get at 104 and the wide receiver you would get at 110. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. The 104 in a superflex league has more value than in a non-superflex league.
Yeah.
So in a superflex league, I probably keep the 104 because that could be your wide receiver 1 or even Breece Hall if 2 quarterbacks go. Probably not, but it could be Walker at least. Walker or Spiller, whoever you like.
Yeah. But 110 is going to have more value too, though, because the quarterbacks push, some of those top tier wide receivers down a little bit too. So, I mean, it kind of depends from there on your own rankings. But, guys like Drake London, Chris Olave, like they're going to be in play at 110.
I think they're decent. But there's a big tier break. And in Superflex, it's around the 104 pick. You know what I mean? Whereas in one QB league, it's around the 103 pick. And that's what I was trying to do. Like it's a value tier drop as in one to the other. But I don't hate it either side. It's pretty balanced. It's just that the thirds are kind of just gumming it up a little bit. So 104 for Akers and the 110. Not that those thirds might not grab you someone. So they're not nothing. I wouldn't take them out just for the sake of it. But that's the way I would think of it. And I think it's fair. The Akers and the 110 side wins most of the time. But in a super flex, I consider keeping it. Who do you like at 110? I like... You're not going to have to take David Bell that high, are you?
No, you shouldn't. No. Like I said, I kind of think, at least in a super flex, I think, the top 2 tiers of wide receivers, I think we're still going to be there. I think it's going to be the Drake London, Chris Olave type guys.
Yeah, I've started to build a draft board to try and get a visual because I'm very visual. I can't help it. I need to see it outlined. And yeah, you're going to get Chris Olave. Jameis Williams might fall there depending on what happens in the draft because of his injury and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Pickens and Bell I have higher than that, but I actually think they're going to be drafted lower. So,
right.
I think the thing about this class is I want 3 guys in that range, or I want 1 guy at the top. Like it's one or the other. So if I've got a 110, I also want the 111 and 112. And I'd rather trade up in a rookie draft in general. Just because I've drafted way too many JJ Sega-Whitesides. If I like him, it's cheap at the 110. But if I could get a next year pick for it instead, that was probably the best way to go. It's very rare that late first round pick is actually a great player. Which is why I kind of like the players that are going to be drafted in the second round a little more, like George Pickens and David Bell. But those are some names. That's who we like right now. The draft's literally going to shift all of that around, though, to be fair. I'd rather have Tony in the 301 of Okada. Me too. Appreciate you, Mike. Giddy up. Seems like Hunt may get cut or traded. I haven't heard that, but maybe, given the contract situation. Chances he'd get a starting gig elsewhere, or they'll just torpedo his value and should get out for a late second. A late second isn't worth it. I'd keep Hunt and hope he got another job, if anything else.
Yeah. I mean, it like worst case scenario, he finds a role just exactly like what he has right now.
Yeah, I think the player's good. I think he should get another job if you lost this one. So I'd rather lean points. It's running back, man. It's okay to lean points at running back. I don't think that late second does much for you either. So early second, and your team could be grabbing one of your favorite wide receivers there. Then maybe I'd think about it. But I'm actually trading for Hunt, if anything, in a few months.
Yeah.
Mayday. I currently have Murray. Giddy up. This is also why we told you 2 months ago to trade running backs, and we'll deal with them later, because I like Hunt, but I'll be dealing with him later. And if you kept your running backs, this is why you're so, because the running backs run a gauntlet in the off season. It's just a thing. I just thought I'd point that out. And not that you could have done that. Like, I have running backs still on my teams because I couldn't trade them. So it happens. Just highlighting the process, I guess. Mayday. I currently have Murray, Watson, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, and more. Kittle, AJ Dillon. Now that's a competitive roster. And a 12-team superflex. I could go Dotson, nope. Claypool, nope. Gesicki, okay. Bell, yes. Guy Moore, I like the way you wrote that. CH Pollard, is this
must be a startup?
Must be a startup question. Like, those are the players that you could select next.
Yeah. It's time to start getting some running backs on that roster. I back to what I was saying earlier. AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, DJ Moore. Like, when do those guys come out of your lineup for any reason? So at this point,
what I'm saying. If you draft, Gesicki or David Bell, I'm assuming that is, or Sky Moore, you can probably trade them for Kareem Hunt in 2 months plus. Wide receivers and value, I think CEH is the most interesting running back here. CEH then Hunt, but I would strongly be leading. You don't have any. You've got Kittle, you're fine. I'd probably lean David Bell here. This is that range where I think it's okay to just draft upside future value because everyone's taking their favorite, CEH is going to be a top 12. I just know it, guy. Kind of range. Is Damian Harris really going in this range? Seems like I like him because he's lower.
People are pretty scared off from him because of Ramondre Stevenson, and this is what the New England Patriots have always done. So, let's not act like they're all of a sudden just going to commit to one guy. It's gonna be a split, and I think both guys are going to be pretty usable most weeks.
So to try to answer the question for once, I would take David Bell. If you want to lean more, let's start a roster at some point. Take your favorite running back. For me, honestly, that's probably CEH. I see the best upside downside there, but Damian Harris is probably safer.
If there's any kind of tight end, if there's any kind of tight end premium, I'd go Gesicki. but beyond that, yeah, I'm
That's
just hammering running backs.
Matthew Mulligan, AJ Brown plus a 24 first. I love the fact we're trying to trade those now. 24 fourth, which is nothing. That's literally nothing.
Yeah.
For T. Higgins and the 104 and Golladay thrown in. It sounds like a trade I've done recently. I had to throw Golladay in a trade to get it done recently, and it was really weird, but anyway. It's T. Higgins and the 104, right? Pretty easily?
Yeah, pretty easily. Like, that's pretty close to straight across, right? I think you and I both like AJ Brown quite a bit, but like AJ Brown for T. Higgins, like how much are you really giving up on a weekly basis?
And just the value, yeah. And then this year's 104 versus a first round pick in 2 years.
Yeah.
Golladay and the fourth are kind of equal, but yeah, for me, that's pretty easy, the T. Higgins side. Have the 102 in a 1 QB rookie draft. Assuming Breece Hall goes 101, who would you take? Good question. Right now, it's Treylon Burks.
Yeah.
I hear that's unpopular now, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Burks and Garrett Wilson, and one of those are the only two that even make it into the conversation, I believe.
Yeah. How far behind are we? Oh, a good ways. That's nice to see. We're going to have to speed up here. Fox Valley, appreciate all your feedback. Any late first round 200 plus ADP RBs or wide receiver targets you could think take a leap in back? Yeah. I got you. Who are your really deep guys? I've got a list if you need some time.
I just have this bunch of running backs that I load up on late in startups and mocks. So it's Dearness Johnson, Donta Foreman, Boston Scott. There's Raheem Mostert.
I'm not sure on their ADPs because I just wrote up a bunch of names that I think are deep. So you'll have to fact check me on that. But the running backs I've got are like Kenneth Gainwell. I think everyone forgot about him.
Yeah.
Chuba Hubbard. He's kind of still noticed, but he's still pretty deep. Yeah. Jamal Williams, everyone's just written off, and I don't get it. Like, I know he's backing up Swift, but I've got a lot of Jamal Williams in best ball. Jarrett Patterson, because I think everyone forgot him. Kylan Hill and Khalil Herbert, just because he showed up pretty well when the opportunity emerged last year.
Yeah.
For wide receivers, I've had to take Tim Patrick off this list because no one's buying it anymore. No one will give them to me for a third round pick. But he was there, and I got a lot of Tim Patrick. But Marcus Callaway, real deep guy on the Saints. Zach Pascal, just forever. Tyler Johnson, Seth Williams, and Tylan Wallace. Those are easily. But again, John's right, actually. This is the area where I take very few wide receivers. I mean, those guys, if they're available, I'll try and stuff them on the back. But running backs are where the deeper you go, the more likely I am just to be adding any running back who is on a team.
Mm-hmm. That's
exactly. Kind of my criteria.
Yeah.
If you want tight ends, because I got those too. Kenny Yeboah, it'll never happen, but I will be so happy if it happens. Jacob Harris, Hunter Long. I think they're interesting. There's actually a guy who I took off this list recently because I think he got some notice on the Browns. Bryant, I forget if he's
Harrison Bryant. Yeah,
I think
that's a good one.
Noticing.
Yeah,
but yeah, I love that. It's my favorite list. It's one no one relatively rarely I ever get to celebrate. No one asks about it, but it's my favorite list to make.
Hell yeah.
I've decided I'm going to write up undrafted free agents you should know about for DLF every year. Last year's the first one I actually wrote them up in article form for DLF. Before that, I was just talking about them on podcast. I so want one of them to hit. I keep going back to the article. Did I write about that guy? No.
Nice.
Brian Raheem. I'm just going to call you Brian because I probably murdered your name. I apologize. Sutton on the 105 for Lamb. Yeah, Lamb.
Really?
Sutton and the 105 for Lamb. Yeah, Lamb.
I guess if it's one QB, yeah, I'm with you. 105 is gross in one quarterback.
Yeah.
But if it's super flex, I mean, you're talking Sutton and I mean, like everybody's still in play at 105. You basically, the guys who are off the board are, it's Willis, Hall, Wilson, and Burks. literally everybody else is in consideration. Sutton and whoever that player is.
And to be fair, I think. Sorry, man.
You're good.
I'm shutting up. I'm
No,
rude.
you're fine.
I'm not doing it no more. I refuse.
Yeah. Anyways, I in Superflex, I think you get a second starter out of 105, and I would take that. I would prefer to stick with Lamb, but I just think that that's a little too much value to pass that up.
What I was going to say is I recently did a podcast where I said I want to be in on Denver, Russell Wilson, Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. I'm going to make the painful trades to get that done. I so far failed to do that. And honestly, this is kind of fair. It's a kind of trade I don't want to do, which is why I haven't seen it work. And it could really pay off. This is one of those trades where Sutton and Russell Wilson, you're paying for a lot of upside there, genuinely, despite how Sutton's career has been so far. There's easily Lamb upside here, but I'm a cautious dynasty player, so I tend to lean the Lamb side. But Brian, if you want in, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. That's as much as I can force myself to say, but yeah, it's fair. Harris highlights. I have this offer on the table from another team. 1 quarterback, 12 team, PPR. Appreciate the information. That helps. Receive Austin Eckler on the 108. Trade away the 204, the 205, a late. Don't project, but okay. A late 23 first. AJ Dillon. I'm hesitant. Should I pull the trigger?
No, I wouldn't.
So essentially,
it is close.
It's that first that's killing me. A 23 first.
Yeah, and my math on this is 23 first for Austin Eckler. I think that's probably pretty close. Yeah. And then everything else for 108. And yeah, I think it's close, but I would rather make the picks. I think you can do a lot more with that.
I think in this draft, I'd rather have a plethora of second round picks or 2 second round picks than just a 108 anyway. You're going to take 2 shots in a tier. You're going to almost, not quite, but almost be in the same tier as a 108 at that 204 and 205.
Right.
So yeah, I lean. I would not do it. I would keep those picks. I think you can get better deals on the late first round picks if you want a shot at someone in that 108 tier. And I'd try something else. It's not an insulting trade by any means. And I don't mind trading AJ Dillon, but AJ Dillon's going to increase in value as people remember the end of his season, and then we get close, and the Packers have got no one else, and look at his thighs. I think he's going to increase in value. So I'd hold off on there. It looks like Jackson wants out of Cleveland, which means Hunt stays. Huh. There you go. Like I say, I haven't heard. I intentionally don't listen to rumors. I kind of wait till something happens, but I haven't heard anything about it. So it's probably just noise. Good evening, gents. What do you think about sending the 409? Is that a rookie pick? And the 23 first for the 111. It's basically a first next year for a late first this year. No,
I'll do it. I would trade any pick outside of the top 4.
Oh, he's going the other way.
2022. Yeah.
Sorry, that 111 has less value than the 23 first. That's the way I'm going. So I want the 23 first in that deal. The 409 doesn't matter to me, but
right. Yeah.
Again,
yeah. So to me, those 23 firsts, I would give up 105 in a super flex for a 23 first. So yeah, and 111 is a huge discount.
And that's just standard, especially the way we think about these draft classes. Like, that pick is going to increase in value. In trade calculators, that would already be pretty even. Random 23 first and a 105 is pretty even. And so, you don't even have to make that pick, and it's probably the better option.
Yeah.
Also, just curious, the top few T's roughly worth the same as the top 5 to 8 quarterbacks in a Superflex 2 tight end league? No.
Yeah, so 2 tight end doesn't actually do nearly as much for tight ends as
this is actually something we're on the same page on, by the way. It's really unusual for us. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that is.
Don't care.
I was bracing myself for this one.
No, we're good.
Oh, I'm gonna hear. Yeah, I mean, 2 tight end just makes more tight ends viable. tight end premium actually bumps the top end tight ends up.
It tries to.
Yeah.
And that's
it
exactly
depends
what
on
it does. It makes those top 3 tight ends flex worthy, and
Right.
everyone else is still pretty much the same.
Yeah.
So I get the thinking here, but the quarterbacks are still more valuable.
Yeah.
Like by a lot. Unless you're Travis Kelce in that 1 year, because a tight end can just have one of those years. But honestly, the quarterback is much more stable, sustainable, more likely to have that kind of year.
Even then, you almost have to get another tight end who's, another top 5 type tight end to actually create any kind of advantage there. Otherwise, I mean, some combination of top 12, top 15 tight ends in a given week can beat Kelce and whatever crap you have at the other tight end,
Travis Kelce's been such a journey. I know we don't have time to take a segue here, but he didn't hit for so long. I remember being in his rookie draft and just holding him on rosters, and he was never going to be Gronk and Graham, it looked like. And then suddenly he's the only one who's produced seasons like Gronk and Graham used to. And it's been such an interesting... Anyway, Burrow torched Pittsburgh twice. Yes, he did. Appreciate it, Alejandro. Tim Shady, 12-team Superflex PPR contender. Sell Devontae Adams for CMC. Oh, I kind of love
that. You would do it?
For CMC?
You'd rather have CMC?
Yeah.
No.
I think both of them are difference-making players for 2022. But as you like to point out, the running backs are just a shit when it comes to difference-making players.
That is true. It's just what is
Both
it going to take?
Could be worth nothing next year, so you don't even have that concern because he's a wide receiver.
That is true. I mean, I guess here's the concession I'm willing to make. If you have some wide receiver depth, to where it's not going to be a huge downgrade at wide receiver, losing Devontae Adams, then sure, why not? But I
put a few more caveats on there on a Tuesday in 2021. No, I love that trade. I'd do it. That's you're going all in, but honestly, your risk isn't so bad. I like Devontae Adams. I'm not scared of his age. It's just running back, man. Yeah. And also, it's an older wide receiver who are very difficult to trade in Dynasty, even though Adams continues to hold his ADP pretty well. I love that trade.
I just have blinders. There. It's like Adams doesn't even compute for me. It's just McCaffrey. What is he going to stay on the field? He hasn't in a couple of years now.
Just a hater. Raymond G. Buying Hopkins as a wide receiver 32. Is he worth a late 23 first? Honestly, beside the point, you shouldn't trade a 23 first for him. That's way above what his value is and also what his risk is. To mitigate that risk of Hopkins, I believe he's going to come back and beat DeAndre Hopkins, because I'm not going to be the one to say DeAndre Hopkins is finished. Screw you. I went over the cliff with Antonio Brown and Calvin Johnson, and I'm going to do it with Hopkins too. I feel no regret. I don't bet on the unicorn's unicorn. Bet against the unicorn's unicorn. I'd rather just roster him on his last season.
Yeah.
But that's nowhere near the value of Hopkins. People are struggling to get a second for him right now, which I would do. I would ride Hopkins for his last year, maybe. For a second round pick, but not for a first. Not for a first in 2023, which is going to continue to elevate in value, and everyone was already coveting more than a first this year. It's too much. I like the energy, though. I like the idea of getting Hopkins, but wide receiver 32 is not worth a third, no matter who it is, generally.
Yeah. And the thing is, if you do, if it is going to take a 2023 first to get Hopkins, you can pivot to a ton. This is the whole point at wide receiver. There's a bunch of them that you can pivot to and get similar scoring from Hopkins. It's not going to be the same, but it'll be similar, and you're going to get them a lot cheaper.
No, if Hopkins is Hopkins, it won't be similar. But yeah, there's better value and players who are going to put up points which are 4 or 5 points behind him, but it's fine because at least they're going to have value next year.
Yeah.
In general, that's just too much. The risk tolerance crowd making you think he's worth too much. Mitigate it a little bit. And I think we already answered these other questions. I think he's worth about a mid-second in this year's draft class, or next year, mid-second in a year.
He should be worth more. I would give
should
a
be
little
worth
bit
more,
more.
but he's not. If he is worth more, then suddenly he's not undervalued. If you know what I mean? At that value, he's undervalued. At a first-round pick, he's kind of well valued because you might get 1 year out of him, and that's a pretty good price for 1 year.
Right.
Maybe 2.
Yeah.
Maybe 1.5. Maybe 6 games. I don't know. NFL's Wild West these days. Hopefully that answers some of your questions. Sean, I just traded the 106 to 209 and the 23 first and a second for Herbert 12-team Superflex. Yeah, I love it. 2 first, basically, for Herbert. And he's one of those quarterbacks you can do that for. If he's on your top 5 list, yeah, I think that's fine.
Yep. Not
Joannis.
at all.
Oh, sorry. Joe. John, this is Joe. She's awesome.
Hey, Joe.
She's better than you. I like her more than you. Just throwing that out there.
It's a low bar.
No, you could probably. She is a big supporter of fantasy football content. She usually comes joins the stream. Has had great ideas. You may have already met, but I'm going to pretend you haven't because I like the idea that I know Joe and you don't.
Yeah,
she's pretty cool. Been on all the live streams I've seen so far. Including Cal and Addison's and Tyler's as well. Joe Herbert. Hi, Joe. See, even Joe knows Joe. Kevin, thoughts on this running back core? Swift, CMC, Barkley, and then I don't care. The rest you trade, it's fine. Like, I like that start, though.
Trade CMC. Sermon, when I was talking about my bundle of late round running backs, Trey Sermon's in there. I like that one a lot. I would hang on to him, but yeah, I like the depth, but yeah, Christian McCaffrey selling.
No, this is with that running back core. I'm going to go ahead and guess your team's pretty competitive, and I would lean that way into 2022. I think that's great. Yeah. I would, if anyone, I would trade Swift for his value right now. You probably get Dalvin Cook plus a first for Swift right now, and I like that idea a lot. Just go pure old running back and add value. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was hoping that would upset you.
It does a little bit, but we don't have time for me to be too outraged over something like that.
Joe, also, I can't move Gabe Davis for pocket change at the moment. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Honestly, I suspect that. I think that ADP and keep trade cut is being held up by, and every player's got a horde. This isn't a Gabe Davis. Like, that's everyone who likes Gabe Davis clicking that keep button or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why it feels so unstable. But yeah, just roster him. And look, he's a decent player who can do some things. He'll have moments, hopefully, at the start of the season, which can elevate his value to your league mates. That's how I would look to play him, especially if you can't get pocket change from him. Plus money should blow a lot of my $100 of season-long fab on Albert O. He's the most valuable thing on waivers when they open up soon. So you've got a $100 budget for the whole season. I'm assuming that starts now too. Albert O's on waivers. How much would you spend on Albert O? I'm assuming this is just a regular PPR league, no Superflex, no tight end premium. That's the one.
Yeah. It also kind of depends on. There's a lot of variables that go into off-season waivers. I mean, it's roster size, it's number of teams. Yeah.
So. I think. Carrot Show.
Well, Peter,
remember me.
No.
Here are my thoughts. I like to spend my fab budget early because those first few weeks when some flyers show up, like the running back who actually has the job or goes off for 100 yards, it's better to spend it early rather than late. This is way too early, so I want to leave some in the tank. Yeah. But yeah, I'd go up to 30% because Albert O has a decent chance of being an actual startable tight end. He's young, he's athletic. People will get excited, and suddenly he's worth something in Dynasty more than he isn't right now. And so I think that's worth, I'd put 30 on him. Why not? 30%.
Yeah, see, I had 25 in my mind. So yeah, I think we're pretty close on that. Yeah.
We're not that far away. I like it. Joe, it could outscore Chase. Chase is overrated. Do it year one, and I'll believe it. That's fair. I think she's talking about Higgins there from about an hour ago when we were talking about Higgins.
Yeah.
Plus, you should only rebuild if you have an orphan. Always compete. I
He does
think
have good ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I always lean compete. I think the word build and rebuild and retool, it covers a lot of sins. And that's why we end up talking about it in such, well, if you're doing it this way and in this situation, because it's just used a little generically.
Yeah.
That's why I always swap my late first with a team I believe will finish towards the bottom. Yeah, I never have the guts to do that trade, but I've been offered it before. Just tell you something. If I win the championship and get the 102, that's what, yeah, that's fair. Swapping late first is the next level of dynasty play. I'll hope to raise and meet you up there one day, Joe. I don't think it's a bad idea at all. I thought it's pretty established. I've seen it go down in most of my leagues, but yeah, it's fairly common that I will see teams trade first, even in another deal. Just I think my team's going to suck this year, so or vice versa, and so they'll add their first, even though it's a straight up. Hey, look at that, Tacit Assassin. This is Zach Reed, for anyone who doesn't know. He does have the link. If he liked us, he could show up and talk, but he's not getting it. Both Weaves. She's talking to Weave, so I can move on. She's talking to Zach, so I can move on. Paul Cicero. Awesome name. I'm looking to sell acres. I need a wide receiver. What do you think I should go for? Again, my first thought is going to be that Devontae Smith, Elijah Moore, Juju, Jerry Jeudy kind of a player.
Yeah.
Go ahead and move him up while I think about it.
Man, you might even get a little bit of an upgrade just because it is so hard to find running backs, especially right now. It just feels like there are fewer usable fantasy running backs than NFL teams, for sure. And this is part of my thing at wide receiver too, is we're really kind of at a saturation point, and we just keep getting more rookie classes coming in and just overloading it to a point where, I mean, some of these guys who are very good wide receivers, they're going to be like a number 3 on their NFL team. There's just, it becomes pretty basic economic supply and demand at that point. I think running backs just have a little bit more value than wide receivers because of that saturation.
That's a lot of noise. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's who I would try and trade for first. Smith, Juju, Jerry Jeudy. There is a way to. I like trading running backs earlier rather than later, but we're kind of mid right now. So if you want to wait, running backs will increase in value. I mean, eventually someone's going to look at their roster and be like, well, shoot, I don't have no running backs. And it's normally me, and I come offer you a better trade than I would right now. So that's who I would start with. And if you can't get a good deal on them, or if you have someone else on kind of that riser list, that player that's valued right now, but he really has the potential to be locked in as one of those high value stars eventually. Yeah. And that's why I've got this list.
See, I'd start a little higher. I'd look at guys like Keenan Allen, Hollywood Brown, Elijah Moore. I wouldn't be surprised.
I said Elijah Moore.
Did you?
That's the same list. Yeah.
I heard was Devonta Smith, and I was like,
Elijah Moore. He was the second one, and then Juju, and then Jerry. As far as Keenan Allen goes, I have him. That's a separate list for me. That's for a start. You use the word need, and you have no needs. By the way, it's Dynasty. Right. You don't need a wide receiver, but I can only chase, and I've got a whole list. It's Michael Thomas, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, even Allen Robinson, like worth a lot less than those other guys. Mm-hmm. If my team is great and I really am just like I'm stocking up points because I really expect to win, I will trade for those guys. If not, they'll be worth substantially less next year, even if they do well, because they're already falling because of their age. So that's why I went to this list, which is it's got a safer floor. Like even as long as they do decently, they're not going nowhere in terms of value. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if you're in an all-in state of mind, Paul, I think Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen, even Amari Cooper, those old guys are. I would want a draft pick with them for Akers, though. That's what I would say. Still am talking back and forth. 12-team Superflex, 102, 103, 111, 112. Got a lot of picks. I see it. Rebuilding team with Carr, Burrow, and Pitts. Should we be trying to package picks or hold off for the draft? Depends what trades, man. It's about the trade, not the timing. So what trades can you get right now? I would say the 102 and the 103, I would need really great offers to trade them. Like, that's the tier, and especially in a super flex. You should be happy to make those picks unless someone comes and really pays up for them. The 111 and 112, I just want a first from next year, like we've already seen happen for some players in this chat. Like, that'd be fine for me, just to push the value down the road a little bit. John, difference of opinions?
No, that's about it. Yeah.
All right. Thoughts on this running back core? I think we went through this one. They just, and it's understandable. I get so far behind. Like, he asked that question half an hour ago, and we answered it 20 minutes after, and so he thinks we didn't see it. Steve Dennis, what's the most you would give in pick value to get Wentz on a roster? I would allow them to give me a second-round pick.
For Wentz?
Yeah. They give me a Wentz and a... No, I'm not kidding. What's the least you'd accept to get Wentz off of your roster? A second-round pick. Of course, lots of other quarterback options on the roster, say 12-team Superflex. Superflex, it means Wentz has starter potential, so he's not worth nothing. But... John, take it away. You're the guy champion of all quarterbacks, no matter how useless they are. What would you need to trade them away?
That's pretty much it. A first round pick. I mean, it's a late one, like probably 112. But to me, that's the value for any NFL starting quarterback, just because you're not going to be able to replace that quarterback with that pick.
True. I think you'd be lucky to get the 202, so I'd consider it there, because I'm not sure Wentz get more valuable, at least you can take a shot on someone who might. But, you've got not a boat. He's more of like a raft, and the pick is maybe a raft.
Right.
So you do have that risk, but I like betting on the upside.
We've kind of talked about this on Twitter in the past, but, if you're not getting that full value, like I said, a starting NFL quarterback should have first round rookie pick value. Even if it's 112, it should be in that range at the minimum.
And we've talked about this too. Like, they don't know.
Well,
they should. I will admit they should, because it makes sense.
Yeah.
But there's like half the league who are maybe interested in getting a quarterback too. And then there's some of those teams that are like, but the first is worth more to me because my team sucks. And it's just if it was 12 teams all competing, he's worth a first. Easy.
Yeah.
But because of the way it works out in practice, like, I know you and John are like, well, enjoy not having quarterbacks. And it's true. You can force a league to make them that valuable, to be fair.
Yeah.
But in practice, I find most of my leagues, like, I can't get it. But
yeah,
it's fair to say that is the line.
Yeah. That's where it should be. And if you're not going to get that, if you're not finding buyers at that price point, then the move, this is the part that we talked about. The move from there is to package Wentz with whatever. And
that's maybe the better way to go.
Maybe you upgrade a that's really the move. Upgrade a quarterback. Wentz plus something and upgrade a quarterback. Like,
actually, that's where we find our common ground, because of the value of you can't find other starters. If you put something decent with Wentz, then you can actually get if you're willing to go outside of the quarterback position, because it's rare someone's willing to trade a quarterback and not get one in return.
Right.
So if you can do that, that's where you can find that first round value. That's actually a good point. I think that's a really good point. Sorry, Blaine. I think I skipped over you there. 12-team Superflex, half-point PPR. Carter, the 111 at 23 first. It's just a first right now. For the 107, 2 rough mid-late 23 first on a rebuilding team. Let me see here. Yeah, it's just a side with 3 firsts on it. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like I said, I like Michael Carter, but yeah, I mean, 107 and 2 firsts. Yeah, I'll take that.
John, what's your thoughts on Albert O? I think he's worth a second round pick. He has potential to actually be one of those. I don't think he can enter that Kelsey tier. I mean, he could. He's athletic enough, but he can be one of those Mike Gesicki, usable, kind of undervalued, kind of valued, very good tight ends for fantasy football. Yeah. And right now, it's a pretty good time to have him on your roster for that.
Literally anyone can be a top 12 tight end.
Yeah.
As long as they're a tight end.
But so
he has
that like Mike Gesicki and, Ertz and Hooper for a while. Like, yeah, anyone can be a top 12 tight end, but these guys are almost always in there. They're producing top 12 seasons. They're the Jason Wittens of the world. They're not more valuable, but they're easier, and you don't have to roster so much depth, at least. And I think that's decent for what people want for Albert O right now.
The problem with Albert O is there are a lot of mouths to feed. It's going to take elite level efficiency for him to to maintain top 12 tight end status. He can get there at any in any one season, any given season, but for him to live there, like those guys you're talking about.
That's the thing. I think he could live there, and that would be an elevation of where he's at. And then put your point in perspective. Noah Fant, what's going to happen to Noah Fant? He was a top 12 tight end last year. It didn't feel like a great breakout.
Right.
That's mostly how it feels. Not great. Traded Evans and Zeke for the 104, 205, and the 205 in a 14-team 1 QB. How'd I do? Evans and Zeke for the 104, basically. Kind of hate it in 1 QB. I'd rather have those points.
Yeah, and I'm so done with Zeke, but yeah, that's pretty light.
When John's done with a running back, that's bad. I like him this year, which makes sense.
He's dead to me. He's dead to me. Year 7 running backs, that just like the cliff is just he's well past it. He's over the cliff.
Those are my guys. Give me the cliff jumpers. Gavin Grant. My starters are quarterbacks Stafford, running back Swift, CMC. I like it. Trade Swift. Wide receivers DK. This team's custom built for us. DK, Higgins, Terry McLaurin, I'm guessing, Devontae Smith. I like our wide receivers a lot.
Yeah.
Andrews, that's great. He's even got Barkley down there for us to disagree on. Juju's there for us to disagree on. And Carter there for the rest of I like this team a lot. You're very competitive this year.
Yeah. I think it's just fine. I mean, I think that there are some moves that you could consider making, but
like Swift for Najee plus, I will really interested in a trade like that. People hate Najee's
efficiency. If you could get that, hell yeah.
It's a rare trade, but that's good. Like Swift is a top 3 dynasty running back. He should bring something off a lower running back, and any kind of value bump I got on Harris, I'd love that. I think we got it. Paul, I have Lamar, Deshaun, Trevor Lawrence in a 2 quarterback league. Should I sell one to address other needs? You don't have needs or build around them. You don't have needs. You have players with great value. And you should always explore trades to improve the rest of your roster. When you have multiple quarterbacks like this, it is kind of a superpower, like we were just talking about with Wentz. If you can trade a quarterback without getting one in return, that opens up the quote-unquote market because everyone's interested in that, even if they're competitive or not, because usually you have to give a quarterback to get one, and that's a limiting factor right there. If you have an extra you're willing to trade, that has advantage. But you definitely don't have to trade them because you have them, if you know what I mean. But you're the quarterback whisperer, go for it.
Well, yeah, you can downgrade every single one of those guys. I would not decrease your quarterback head count in a 2 quarterback league. I mean, I don't feel good about having just 3 quarterbacks in a super flex league, but you can do it. I mean, if one of those 3 guys is hurt and another one's on bye, I mean, you're starting a non-quarterback at that super flex position. It's not ideal, but it works. But if that's the case in this league, if you have one of these guys hurt and one of them on bye, or if it just so happens that 2 of them are on bye at the same time, you can't submit a legal lineup. So, it's even more important in 2 quarterback leagues to keep that quarterback depth up. Now, it doesn't matter who they are. So you can absolutely tier down from all of these guys.
I wouldn't do that though.
Yeah.
If I'm not trading one of these away for a non-quarterback, Lamar Jackson, I'm keeping. Deshaun Watson is probably not valued as a top 5 quarterback, but he has that upside. Trevor Lawrence is just your 3rd quarterback, and hopefully there's upside in the fact that, that goddamn coach is gone. Yeah. So I don't think they're overvalued, if you know what I mean. So I'm just keeping them. I'm either trading them away for a non-quarterback to like get a top-tier running back or wide receiver because there's value in being able to do that, or I'm just keeping them. Probably listening to you talk about it, I probably ended up just keeping them. That's
that's the takeaway. That just do the opposite of what I did.
That's just no. What I mean, because of the context you're providing, is I'm probably just keeping it because Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson have top 5 value. If you tear down, the value of your quarterback position is literally no longer difference making. If you tear down from Trevor Lawrence, you're at that level of quarterback who isn't more startable than a wide receiver in your super flex spot. Like 10 points a week. Woo.
I mean, that's the thing though. What's the actual difference between, and obviously we know that there's a difference in value between Lamar Jackson and Tua, but in terms of weekly scoring, Tua is going to outscore Lamar Jackson.
No, that's the thing. Like that level of quarterback play has a significant difference from the, quarterback 7 to quarterback 15. There's little difference, but quarterback 1 to 3, that's a substantial edge. I'm pretty sure. I think we did this once before. I can't remember what it was.
But then you just have to find quarterback 1. That's
Bob. Sorry, the way I remember this one is recently Bob Gilchrist posted a trade in which was better to roster, and it was better to roster the quarterback 1 and the quarterback 17 than the quarterback 7 and the quarterback 13. And that's what I'm talking about here. Like Jackson and Deshaun Watson could both be that quarterback 1. And outside of that, you're right. It's just a tier of who cares. Like get 2 of them. And so those 2 are slightly different upside to me, but if you just don't want to roster Watson for other reasons, I get that, and I do that quite actively. Parker, 12-team Superflex 108 Mariota MVS for Fournette. I like this trade, and a 23 first, even better. You've got the value and the upside for me on that side. I like Mariota, but this is fine.
Yeah.
Who would be good pivots from Swift, Mitchell, or Akers? That's the thing about Swift. I can't find good pivots. I know I want to trade him, but the pivots of guys that John won't like. That's the answer. It's CMC, it's Barkley, and
I love Barkley. That's my pivot for pretty much any top tier running back. Pivot to Barkley. He's undervalued right now because he had a second year of dealing with injuries coming off of an ACL, which is a very typical timeline for running backs recovering from an ACL.
Unlike CMC.
CMC hasn't had an ACL.
He's just been injured. He's just been collecting.
He's like the guy from Operation with just like all these different things going on throughout his body.
Barkley's just been injured. He's still very good. CMC's been injured, and so now he's bad. Got it.
Barkley got injured once. to be clear, Barkley got injured once. Christian McCaffrey has been injured every other game for the last 2 years.
CMC got it. Let's see. Actually, Gavin Jacobs is a really good one. I forget to mention him sometimes right now, but Fournette and Jacobs are two of the top 12 upside guys who aren't valued there. That Jacobs is a really good pivot, but if you're trading for Jacobs, you expect a lot back with Swift. Like you're looking for a first and a wide receiver, I guess you like. Whereas Barkley is a lot easier to trade. People add a little something, and you're happy to do that because you're taking the injury/age risk. There's not really an age risk, but Jacobs is a really good one as well. So let's say Barkley and Jacobs are our answers, and they were both mine. And John said nothing.
Travis Etienne.
I think he's interesting. Do you want to roster him next year, though? Or is it because
Yeah.
you think you can trade him? You think he's going to go off?
Yeah, I don't know about go off, but I think he'll be fine. People, I love James Robinson, but people forget that was a very significant injury very late in the season.
Yeah.
It's not super likely that we see a whole lot of him in 2022. So,
No,
which
what
means
we've
Travis
been saying
Etienne.
is,
It means that Travis Etienne has that backfield all to himself, and that type of running back is the perfect training wheels for Trevor Lawrence to try and get this thing back on track. I love the opportunity for Travis Etienne.
what we've been saying is Travis Etienne, I forget which is the right way of saying it right now, but he was valued more than he is right now when James Robinson wasn't injured. Like, it feels like the minute we see him running again, and so no one has to worry about that injury, like his value is gonna, because he's a highly drafted running back going into what is technically his first season, and we love those guys. So it feels like it's a buy low opportunity. I'm not sure I want to roster him, but I definitely think he's looks like he should increase in value. So that's interesting. Yeah. Jacob Calloway, do you alter your draft rankings in a league that doesn't value quarterbacks? It's not like I actively create rankings for every league, but I think it's fair to shift with the market of your league, to put it for want of another term. Like, if you have 5 quarterbacks and no one in that league is going to value quarterbacks, like, again, to John's point, you can just hold the value. I have all the quarterbacks. You're going to have to come up and meet me.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having a roster full of quarterbacks. There's not.
Consider the source. I'm just saying. Consider the little bias. Little bias.
Little bias.
No, it's possible. I guess I'm more open to changing my overall valuation based on what the other, because I just want to compete in the league that I'm in, instead of, I don't feel I'm going to be able to change the league's attitude if they are genuinely, like, trades. Like, Dynasty Outhouse can literally shift the trade-o-meter of a league, or whatever you call that. A league can go from virtually never trading to trading very actively, because Dynasty Outhouse is just fucking nuts about trades. He can do that. I don't think I have that ability to shift the league's behavior. John Bosch does with quarterbacks, though, and John Hogue right here says he can. So
yeah, I mean, it's really just about creating leverage, and if I'm able to, this is literally what I say. If I've got 5 quarterbacks, whether you're going to trade for them or not is immaterial to me, because I like having 5 quarterbacks on my Superflex roster because I can stream them within my roster. I'm not actively trying to trade them. If you want to trade for some, great, but I'm not actively trying to trade them away. Number one, and number two, I would rather have that quarterback and their immense scoring, their 15 point per week floor and 45 point per week ceiling. I would rather have that on my bench than in your lineup.
I would say, we've said on here before, like, just because they want to undervalue a player doesn't mean you have to change what you think of them to meet it. Like, it's not like
you shouldn't. In fact,
because you don't have needs doesn't mean that the player is worth something different. So if you have 5, it's not like they're worth less because of that. The other thing that twigs in this question, Jacob, is that you're saying that your league has a redraft mindset. I think that changes with time. Either the league collapses or people figure out that value is real and exists, and they're having trouble getting their team off the ground, and they have to start playing differently. And so it's okay to just hold your line. Yeah. I would say that.
Yeah. That's exactly it. And in fact, it's going to make it, when that shift finally happens, and especially because you're kind of pushing it to happen, that's going to finally happen. Whatever you've been selling your quarterbacks for, that's going to be the price. Like, this is something that I've kind of learned as a business owner, is to never give discounts, because the discounted price becomes the price that's expected. So, if I start trading away quarterbacks for less than what they're worth now, it's going to be really hard for me to increase that price later.
Well, it's honestly like most sales are actually just the MSRP. I noticed
Yeah.
online, like on sale, and it's exactly what
Right.
the MSRP, but they've got a number above it with a slash through it, so it
Yeah,
feels
they
like a
marked
deal.
it up so they
You
can
don't,
mark it down.
so they can mark it
Yeah.
down. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Blaine, thanks for the help, guys. Love the work. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Joannis, well, after hearing you speak on it, John, you've convinced me to do the opposite.
Yeah, she noticed that. That was
Pretty much every podcast we've ever done together. Yeah.
pretty much.
What will they need to add? The 225, this year's 105 and 106 in an offer for Watson.
I think you're short by another first.
Yeah.
And it's probably got to be an earlier one than that, than what's already there.
And I don't want to do it perfectly. I think you get Jackson for 3 firsts. I think you can get Lamar Jackson for 3 first-round picks, and I'd rather have Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
12 teams who flex start 9. Yeah, that's pretty standard. Yeah, I think answer holds. ETN is a badass prospect. It's official.
Very true. Very true.
He was a great like if he was in this draft class, he'd be the running back 2 at least. Like he'd be in a tier with Breece Hall. That'd be it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like just to clarify, like he's a really good. That's why I hated him, because I love James Robinson, but like he was a really good prospect. It still is.
Yeah.
12 team Superflex PPR, half point PPR, 103 for the 108, the 109, and the 23 second. I think it's even. I want to go up in this draft class, so I want the 103, but I think it's a pretty good trade. You want you want plenty of picks in that tier, and you actually get a 23 second, but still 2 picks, or you want the high pick. So it's even. I prefer the 103. John?
Yeah.
Would you rather have the 2?
Okay. I'd rather have 103, but it is close. I think you're right.
I think it's fair trade. Lead the 103. Sorry, so many. No, man. If you weren't asking questions, we'd just be staring at each other like angrily. CMC's good. Damn it, Barkley's better.
CMC lover.
Goddamn CMC. That would be the entire thing. So really appreciate it, man.
Peter McCaffrey.
And then occasionally Joe would say something better, and we'd be like, yeah. Either Joe, actually, or Weaves. Weaves has been pretty active tonight. Appreciate that, bud. Cash, I know that guy. Do either of you all have a take on Deuce Vaughn?
Never heard of him.
Sorry, Cash. Yes, he is. You're great. You were great, I'm guessing, on the Dynasty Trade Calculator. You offer that sharp analytical side. Yeah, Cash is. I've been working with the Dynasty Trade Calculator recently. It's been pretty cool. Weaves agrees. Zane, play QBX bingo in that league, Jacob.
That's my man, Zane. Yeah, I created Superflex bingo for those leagues where you go QBX, and like you'll hear the same complaints. It starts off with, what are you doing with all those quarterbacks? You can only start
need them.
2. Yeah, you don't need all those quarterbacks. You can only start 2. They're wasted on your bench. And then they kind of ramp it up and they start saying stuff like, oh, I talked to the rest of the league and they're not going to trade with you for your quarterbacks. You're stuck with them. And then they try and kick you out of the league eventually. And that's when you got a bingo.
Fair enough. Sounds like a fun time. Can't wait to
so fun.
Enact that strategy. Okay. I'm not going to comment on that. I get in trouble when I do that. I definitely check out Cash and his work with Dynasty Trade Calculator. Gavin also loves Barkley, so we love Gavin.
Nice.
I got Watson for Drew Lock, a late 23 first and a second, and a projected, don't do that, late 2020, a late 24 first.
Oh, that's even, yeah, there's no way to know that one.
As Watson was my QB4, which doesn't matter, but when he steps on the field. So basically you're trading, the trade was Watson for Lock, a first, a second.
First and second.
Lock and 2, it's too low. 2 first, basically, and some depth picks.
Yeah, I think you got Watson pretty cheap.
Yeah, that's good.
Essentially, yeah.
How good can Bateman and Rondell Moore be? I mean, the moon, to the moon. No, I don't know why. I have an inkling of where players land, and sometimes it's wrong. But I tend to split it between top 24 and top 12 guys, and then occasionally top 5 upside. I don't think Rondell Moore has top 12 upside. I don't think Bateman has top 5 upside. But I could easily see them fitting in the range just below that. I think Bateman's really good. He could really rack up volume there, and he had a good rookie year, which seems to be underrated a little bit now. Rondell Moore, the only reason I still want to be on Rondell Moore is because everyone else is already out. I'll be honest. The rookie year was rough, but he had a good college profile. He hadn't played football in 2 years. He's athletic as all heck. He's got Kyler Murray. I think with the discount, that's pretty interesting. But we're betting on the unusual. Bateman's right where he should be. We should expect him to be at least a top 24 wide receiver after that rookie performance. Don't know why everyone went cold. It's because every week everyone on Twitter seemed to projecting, this is a week he does what Jamar Chase has been doing. It's like, nah, chill, fam. That's not it. Justin Saunders, what do you think Trubisky's value is in a 2-quarterback league? A ham sandwich. Is he worth a first-round pick? No.
Yes, he is. Peter, yes, he is.
Value is what? No, I don't think anyone's going to first Trubisky. No.
How are you going to find a starting quarterback outside of the first round of a rookie draft in a 2-quarterback league?
I'm not. If I don't have a second quarterback, I'm like, okay, I'm building. I would rather keep that pick, find a wide receiver or running back, trade it for another pick, and try and find a quarterback. Because by the next rookie draft, Trubisky isn't a quarterback. He isn't a starting quarterback by the next rookie draft. You're paying a first for a bottom tier rental. Just not me. If that's the only way for me to get a quarterback, then I'm rebuilding. Like that's not, and I can do that better with the first than Trubisky.
You're kind of kicking the can as a problem because, maybe you're bad enough that you get a top pick next year. You get CJ Stroud or Bryce Young.
Don't have to be bad enough. You have to trade into that pick, and I can do that more easily with another first than I can Trubisky.
Yeah,
that's the equation.
You can. Either way, though, I mean, you're talking about waiting till next year to draft a quarterback that isn't going to be super useful to you as a rookie.
Trubisky's not going to be super useful to you this year either. Come on, you're not winning with Trubisky this year. Yeah, but you're not quarterback. If you're not winning with Trubisky because you're not winning because Trubisky's your quarterback too. Like if your team's already losing, team's already too bad. No, you're not losing. He's
the quarterbacks
maybe
are never,
just failing to hit the playoffs again. What's the point?
The quarterbacks are never going to be the reason that you lose. And it kind of doesn't matter.
If the rest of your team is full on studs, then yeah. But I don't think if you are in a position where you need Trubisky to fill out your roster, then your team's likely to be in that position. I just don't think that's likely.
We hear it all the time, though, about people taking. Like
that's the thing. That's exactly what I'm saying, though. Like Trubisky and those late quarterbacks have first-round value to like maybe 3 or 4 teams in your league they just need a quarterback. Mm-hmm. Most teams need more than that, and so like you've got a market of 4 teams, and by this time next year, they're not starting quarterback.
But how do you start filling in the rest of those gaps if you don't have quarterback set? Because you don't have another way of going and getting another quarterback. Like I can go find a wide receiver. I can find a running back from there. But
find a quarterback. Quarterbacks turn up the same way wide receivers do. Shit, we had Gardner Minshew. We had Taylor Heineke last year. We had David Mills. It's not like quarterbacks don't turn up as well. And also, I'm not. If my team's isn't really competitive, then I'm already looking to next year. So I may as well try and get the quarterback in the top 10 next draft.
This is Mitchell Trubisky turning up, though. This is you getting it really at a really pretty low price, getting a starting quarterback.
That's not
which is just kind of the catalyst.
You were dithering on a late first for a better quarterback earlier. You really ramping up the value of these barely startable quarterbacks.
Someone has to.
That's fair. Someone's got to do the dirty work. I swear I see you. I'm just reading other people's conversations at this point. Breece Hall and Saquon Barkley, or Bijan Robinson and CMC. Breece Hall and Saquon.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I love Bijan, but man, that's just Yeah, that's too much.
You just can't take a side that has CMC on it, can you? Like, nah,
That's
I can't.
a big part of it. Yeah. Fair.
Deuce Vaughn is a Devi running back. Yeah, I don't. That makes sense because I don't know who he is. Small size, but really good receiver. Sounds like I'd like him. Probably makes for split takes, but I guess you all ain't got Devi. No,
Other
Devi
than at
take.
the very, very top. Yeah, I mean,
I'm aware of who JSN is. That's my Devi take. I know that name.
Yeah.
That's all my Devi take. Sorry. Come on, man. Look at me. I'm tearing my hair out trying to keep up with Dynasty. Don't. I leave Devi to the smart folks. I'll know about them in a year. Mayday. I got an offer in a 12-team Superflex startup. Elijah Mitchell, whose value seems to have dropped from what I remember from the start of the offseason, and Kareem Hunt for Damian Harris, Kendrick Bourne, I'm guessing, Darrell Henderson Williams.
Yeah.
It's a weird mix of players, I'll say that. And 3 late seconds. I considered, but counted taking off the second. Yeah, I guess I just want Elijah Mitchell and Hunt. Why not?
Yeah.
And Harris is fine. Like, I don't get the other side at all. I like Kendrick Bourne, but he doesn't have value.
Yeah. And again, Harris and Bourne in the same lineup is just, it's suboptimal. If Harris has a ball in his hands, Bourne can't.
I don't believe that's the case, but whatever. And then, anyway, we're not getting into yet another thing we disagree on today. We're still talking about the one thing every other question. I'm extremely thin at running back. Harris is my running back 1. Yeah, again, honestly, I don't know why I wouldn't take the Mitchell Hunt, and why not throw in Harris and I don't know why I wouldn't take the Mitchell and Hunt side here. The other side seems like a package of and I'll just take 2 decent running backs instead of the package of I don't know what that means, Akash. Do remember that I'm over 30 years old and I'm just pretending to know what things mean at this point in my life. But I really appreciate you. I'm going to assume that's a nice positive comment because you are awesome. I run Dynasty Leagues and Sleeper if you're interested. See, I just keep listening in on someone else's conversation. I apologize. How does the size of your league affect your value of quarterbacks in a Superflex league, if at all? That's a you question if ever I heard one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the scarcity, the fact that in a 12-team league, in theory, everybody's got access to, almost everybody has access to 3 quarterbacks, which technically is probably all you really need. But then by the time you get to a 14, 16-team league, there just aren't enough quarterbacks to go around. And so, with that scarcity, again, it becomes basic economics, basic supply and demand. And the supply just isn't there, so the demand shoots up. So, yeah, the bigger the league, the more value they're going to have.
There you go. 12-man Superflex QBs and less valuable, and 12-team league Superflex QBs are very valuable. Oh, she's answering our questions because we're taking too long. I appreciate that. You're working with Judy at inflated post-Russ ADP. Here's the thing. Judy's ADP is actually lower than it was when he was a rookie with non-Russ. Like, it's gone up since the trade, but he's still worth less. He's still valued lower than he was as a rookie. And I think we reset. I think he's been good enough on what his performance has been on his targets and on his routes. And he was struggling with a real bad situation there. I'm sorry. That was terrible. So I think he's been good enough to say the skills are there, and quarterback does matter to wide receiver. So yeah, kind of. But trying to be honest with it, I've been turned down for every trade that I have tried. So yeah, I can say that, but I haven't been willing to pay up for the price yet. So I like the theory. I haven't been able to do it on my teams yet. Like, I'll pay it first, easy for Jerry Jeudy. The 105, easy for Jerry Jeudy. The 105 and Bateman, I can't get him for the 105 and Lockett. And not that I have the 105, but that kind of value, no, they don't want Lockett, so they don't want the deal. It takes, and John Bosch was the one that pointed out, I was trying to get a trade done. He was like, offer the first and Bateman. I was like, but I don't want to. And he's like, that's what would get it done. Yeah. And that's just too high for me. I like the idea, so maybe I should just go do that. But so far, I haven't been able to pull the trigger, but I want to be, because it makes sense. I think it does make sense. Traded away Elijah Mitchell for the 105 today. No, it's fine, but I don't like it. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. And running backs are worth less in value, but
yeah,
you're not getting a top 12 running back at 105 is the only thing that bothers me about that. You know?
Oh yeah.
And Mitchell really should be again, but I don't hate it. It's even. It's fine. You know ball. I literally don't even know the acronym, but I appreciate you trying. We must be catching up a little bit. Zane, talking to someone else. How would you value Deshaun Watson in a 32-team league?
Oh, geez.
0 QB. Wow.
0 QB1 super flex.
So you can start anyone in that spot, I guess.
Yeah.
Wow. Really highly.
Yep.
I played in the 32-team league once, and it'd been going for years, and I joined because I thought it sounded interesting, and it was just a nightmare of a mess trying to figure that thing out. No one had it figured out, which made it worse. But it didn't take long to figure out just have quarterbacks, because people were doing wrong things, as John has no doubt again to explain, about not wanting certain levels of quarterbacks. But even in a non-QB league, those quarterbacks who do score, especially if you have enough to stream, are just going to outstrip most positions most weeks in an easier to see, more consistent manner. So in a 32-team league, even 0 QB, I think that actually elevates quarterback value quite a lot.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. It just kind of raises your baseline scoring on a weekly basis, like to a point where that's kind of a qualifier to contend. You know, there's going to be it's a little bit of a trap to have 0 quarterback and have a super flex spot, because people are going to think that they're going to be fine without a quarterback all of a sudden. And the reality
actually
is
the opposite is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is where our quarterback worlds align. I mean, that's the solid stem of quarterbacks from QB, 5-ish to quarterback 17 is going to consistently outperform top 12 running backs on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah.
So anyone throwing a running back in that spot against you is already 5 points behind.
Right.
And that's rough.
Yeah.
On average. I feel like we should be more exact for how we would adjust value, but I got nothing.
Yeah.
Saquon, Daniel Jones, Golladay for CMC, Trubisky, and Judy. Yeah, that's a tough one. CMC side. And Judy. Look at that. I finally made a Judy trade. It's not my league.
Oh, my God. I hate this one. I
know
really
you do.
hate this because
you know the answer is CMC, but you don't want to take
it. Kind of is, yeah.
It is.
Finally found a trade where I in what makes it even worse is that my guy Saquon, I have to give up Saquon and I have to take on CMC. That is not a move that I want to make anywhere in the real world, but in this case, I think we have to. Yeah.
I'm just going to clip that part where John says, take the CMC side. And I asked for Andrews and AJ Brown and Hunt, and he said it was too much. So sad. I was aiming for the moon. I have Russ in the 101 league, presumably, already. I'm missing the stuff. Yeah, you're overvaluing quarterback intentionally, as you should in a 32-team league. Yeah. And also, that's the nightmare of a league for me. I'm such a vanilla player. I don't know how you are, John. I like Superflex. That's not unvanilla to me, but I like PPR, start 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, couple of flex spots.
I like having just kind
nothing
of
too complicated.
Yeah. I like having just a bunch of different styles of leagues, different settings and stuff, and have to figure out a different strategy for each one of them. I like that, but it's a little
See, I hate that. I like
sadistic,
the idea. I keep signing up for them because it sounds like it's fun. Like John Bosch does so many leagues. But then once you get past year one, it's like, I just want to know what's going on when I look over my league. I don't want to have to restudy everything to figure out if a trade is good or what I have to do to make this trade. Or I'm lazy. Ultimately, at my core, in a very significant way, I'm like, nah. I just want to know. Anyway, I think we're at the end of the comments. So, yeah.
Nice.
What are you up to, John?
Yeah, that's about it.
You just did the podcast with Zach, right?
Yeah.
Is that out already?
Not yet. I'm gonna finish publishing it as soon as we're done here, and I'm gonna have it drop first thing in the morning. And we definitely get some of his film analysis on some of the rookies. We didn't get into it nearly as much as I would have liked. But
it's always not enough time.
Yeah.
That's what I find.
Yeah. Well, and we also just had a very good conversation actually about, league settings and, get down how you get down, that type of stuff. So that ended up kind of dominating the conversation.
Weave says, good show, lads. I really appreciate you saying that, man. Thank you. Cash asks you, John. Just you. If you have Saquon greater than CMC, and I think
I do.
Does, right? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I've got Saquon right now ranked as running back 3, I believe, 3 or 4. And Christian McCaffrey's way down there. Like people hate how low I rank him.
Confirmed. I hate it. I haven't even seen it. I'm pretty much sure. What are the chances?
Super low.
Do you do quarterback evaluation, or is it all just about the stock quarterbacks, and then when they perform, do you watch the tape or run the numbers and decide who's good and bad? That's what I mean by evaluation. Yeah. I don't know quarterback. I'm like the guy who's been top 5 before.
I do a little bit of tape, but I'm not on Zach Reed's level with that stuff at all. I know what I'm looking for. I know what I like, but I can't tell you what it is that I'm seeing most of the time.
So what would you do with a Tyler Huntley here? Because like me, you don't have a strong evaluation of if he's good or bad. And Mino here is asking, could he get a starting gig somewhere? Would you just roster him in the just in case kind of category?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite sleepers. I've been picking him up at the very end of startups, just on that off chance, because he does seem like the type of guy who's at some point going to get a chance to start somewhere. And man, if this contract stuff doesn't get figured out for Lamar Jackson, I mean, they have a ton of leverage because they've got a guy that they could just pivot to and let Lamar walk.
What I'd say is that all makes sense to me, but it's like Gardner Minshew. We know he can start if they need a starter. I would think of him in that way, because otherwise, I know I get so fixated on, I found a guy I like. And so, I want to overvalue that. But, honestly, Gardner Minshew's got a similar kind of a shot. He can do something. Or who's the Colts guy who started for a while after Luck went out? I forget his name.
Oh, Jacoby Brissett.
We know he can at least play quarterback in the NFL, right? He's not Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, but he's top compared to the world, top tier player. Yeah. So they're worth holding, especially in Superflex, because of everything John says he's going to make you pay if you're not holding him when he gets a job.
Right.
Everyone figured out we nearly got out of here, so we've got a few more questions. Wesley just sent the 205 and the 304. I am going to let John go earlier than I usually let Outhouse and Russ go, by the way, because he's a guest, technically. And even though I hate him, obviously. I don't want to be mean. But
you're just trying to get rid of me because you're tired of my anti-Christian McCaffrey takes.
That's my favorite thing about you, man. that we disagree. 205, 304, and a 23 fourth, so a whole lot of for an early 23 second. Yeah, I guess tearing up. It's a 205
it's
this
fine.
year for a second next year, and I don't hate it. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't think that it's a slam dunk either way, but
CMC or Brace Hall, that might start a fight.
Let's do this.
Even Brees Hall. I'll have CMC ranked higher for 2022, and he's the guy I'd rather trade for because I think it's easier to trade for him, like you pay less.
Yeah.
But Dynasty is going to have Brees Hall and CMC by like now. As long as he draft dependent, he's got to go in the first round, at least a second to a good landing spot.
Yeah, decent landing spot. Yeah.
Like if he goes to
Washington, which is, I mean, he's been visiting, like he's done visits with Washington. I mean, and that's the thing. The fact that that's even in play is why we still have to keep Christian McCaffrey above him for the moment.
I know it's easier to list the bad landing spots. Like if he goes to the Colts, Brees Hall isn't worth more than CMC. And if he goes to, one of those spots, there's not many.
Yeah.
I want CMC. That's the argument. I'd rather have CMC because there's a value difference. But in Dynasty, I don't know what I have done, but it's getting close to Hall being ranked above him. Yeah. I don't think DLF doesn't have rookies in their ranks yet, so I don't even have to make that choice yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Win. That's what winning looks like. Cash sent Antonio Gibson, Godwin for Debo in the 106. Debo. Yeah. It's harder to replace Antonio Gibson, to be fair.
Yeah.
But it's almost impossible to replace Debo.
Part of the problem too is we talked about it with James Robinson. Chris Godwin, it's kind of the same thing. It's easy to forget that was a late season injury that he might miss a lot of 2022.
Yeah, I think people are missing that. People are forgetting that on Godwin. Here's the thing, though. Like, it's better to trade for running backs and draft wide receivers, which is kind of what you would be. Like, the 106 is a wide receiver in this class. It might be Walker or Spiller, but it's probably a wide receiver.
Yeah. That's where I think I am. I want
Debo's side easily.
I'm going to stick with Gibson, and I love Debo's he's my favorite. He's like the Aaron Rodgers of wide receivers for me.
Just the most running back like wide receiver is your guy. Who would have guessed?
That's my guy.
Who would have guessed? That's the guy. I love Wandale Robinson. I think I want Gibson Godwin side. Yeah, honestly, I think the trade is decent. So that's all of my answer. It's just preference, and I'd rather stick on the Debo side. I think that's harder. Yeah. It's more value to me. He's the best player in the deal for me. He's the highest ranked at his position. So I take that.
That's
side.
True.
And the 106, it could be a boat. Who knows? Superflex rookie draft 104. Who should I target? No one right now. Honestly, that's my answer, Justin. I'm not being cute. Like, I don't think you should put names to it. You should have a rough idea of who might be available. But if you start putting names to it, then that affects. I find, because I'm simple-minded, that when the draft comes and that changes everything, then I'm still stuck on some old ideas. And so I wouldn't put too many names on it. But honestly, that's where you're either picking one of the other running backs or you're taking a wide receiver too. Kind of a thing.
There's a possibility that there's a quarterback who lands in a good enough spot that you're at least considering him at 104. But it's going to be the quarterback too, and it's going to be the guy, whether it's Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell, maybe Matt Corral, but like one of those guys probably gets drafted into a good enough situation where it looks like they're going to have a path to starting year one at some point. And and if that happens, I think they make it into consideration. But
I think that's again where the draft, like if a quarterback does that, then someone might even go and push one of those other guys down to you, and so you're looking at your wide receiver 1 or your running back 2, and that's why I wouldn't put too many names on it. That's interesting. Can I ask you, like, you're down? It sounded like you're down on Malik a little bit as the quarterback one. So doesn't that mean that everyone below him you're even further down on? Like, is there anyone in this class you would be really interested in a good landing spot?
Yeah, for sure. Malik Willis is the only guy that I think is a day one starter. And, you know, and again, that's really kind of what we're looking for, is just quarterbacks with a starting job. The rushing upside helps too. But, you know, I don't think that he's particularly good, other than the fact that he's probably going to get a starting job. But the rest of those guys, I just see a bunch of backups. I just see an overall weak class making themselves look, just kind of making themselves, they all look better standing next to each other. Like, have you ever seen them?
Have you seen like having an ugly friend?
Yeah, exactly. Like, have you seen the movie Hall Pass, where they're at the club and there's this really attractive blonde girl, and the guy says, yeah, it's an optical illusion. And he puts up his hands like that, and all you see is her. And all of a sudden she's got a unibrow and like warts and stuff. She's all ugly. And then he pulls his hands apart so you can see all her friends again. And all of a sudden she's hot again. And then he puts his hands back together and she's ugly again because she's the only one that you see. That's Malik Willis. He looks great compared to the rest of this class. But I mean, if you took away all that crap and just had him and just thought about him as an NFL starting quarterback, you're going to be like, this guy is pretty mediocre.
It sounds like a terrible movie, but I
it's
get
not
the
good. Yeah.
What was I going to say? Yeah, I don't know. I literally have no quarterback evaluation process. I gave up. It's just, everyone sounds like it's terrible, which means there's probably a Dak Prescott somewhere, but I'm not going to be the guy to find him. So I guess I'll listen to the tea leaves, and I won't overdraft that quarterback 2 ahead of. But I mean, there's potential there if you have a better process. I know some guys I would definitely trust on quarterback evaluation, like Sean Slavin, who's right for 2 QBs. Rotoviz has got a bunch of guys who do some quarterback evaluation. And even here at DLF, but I can't think of anyone willing to put their name on it right now. Back up. But mostly I wouldn't. But it's an interesting idea that the quarterback could end up in that too.
The guy I really like is Carson Strong, and there's no chance that he's going to get an opportunity to a point where I shouldn't even be saying it out loud.
Oh, wow. What? Let's not get into it again. But that sounds interesting. Hunt Pollard. Which one? How would you rank these 3? Hunt Pollard. There's only 2. I have trouble reading sometimes, but there's 2 names there, right? Yeah, I rank him in that order too. Hunt and Pollard.
Yeah. Exactly.
Aaron Jones plus a 23 first for CMC and a 20. As running back, I just lean upside. I like Aaron Jones. I like this trade for the Aaron Jones side. Yes. If my team is competitive, I want CMC.
What?
No one scores points like CMC. No one. Ever.
Well, when
Damian Tomlinson, maybe. Yeah, but that's the thing. That's like, if he's healthy, if my team is anywhere not near the top 3, then Aaron Jones in the first. I will make that concession. That's just a good deal. I love Aaron Jones. That's fine. But like, if I'm top 3 and I feel really confident about it, like, all in, let's go win. And CMC is the best thing to do that. But
are you willing to project?
Aaron Jones side probably wins.
Are you willing to project your
secret? That's a secret. Hush. Normally not. But I mean, you could be. Yeah, that's fair.
You're just trying way too hard to talk yourself into CMC on this.
You're trying way too hard to talk yourself out of him, so we can't balance.
No, that one was easy. That I had no problem with that one. The one with
I had trouble,
and that was tough.
I had trouble with it, and that brings it to the mid, which is where it should be. You see, what would you want picks wise for Javonte Williams? He's like a top 5 running back in Dynasty. That tier of players should bring 3 first-round picks, and I want the picks over Javonte Williams. I don't think you're getting it, but that's kind of the rough valuation. 3 first-round picks for the top tier.
Yeah, and I think it's got to. It probably needs to start with a top 5 pick, or 2 of them starting with 101, is the other thing. I would replace him with Brees Hall if I was getting another first round pick to kind of hedge.
Yeah, that's good. Like if you have the Brees Hall pick, then you don't need 2 other first round picks added on top to get Javonte Williams. That's fair. Cash, Midson gonna get replaced in the draft. It's all good. Midson?
Oh, maybe Gibson.
That makes sense. Yeah. Just think about running backs, man. The offseason is a gauntlet.
Yeah. It is kind of looking that way. They've had a lot of running backs come in for visits, so
he did well last year, man.
I like Gibson. I hope it doesn't happen.
And again, so did James Robinson. Look what they did to that poor man. Yeah. Leave some likes for these guys. I really appreciate that, BJ. Thanks. Yeah, I forget to say that stuff, and that's probably why we don't. Like and subscribe. Whatever. Gibson isn't going anywhere. I like Joe so much. I'm rooting for it. Appreciate that, guy. Ron Rivera and Bean have beef. See, I just don't know. I don't pay attention to these people. Makes sense. So makes me want to not draft any quarterbacks. Period. Damn right, Wesley.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, man. That's why I'm trading away, 2022 first for 2023 first as much as I possibly can, because that's where you're going to get actual difference-making quarterbacks is next year. It just sucks that you have to wait a year.
I think that's been popular for so long, though. Are you finding it easy to do that in your leagues? Like now? It feels like we were saying that 6 months ago, and now most people have caught up. I don't know, though.
What I haven't done is, since I kind of, really squeezed what I'm willing to do, because, it was easy to say, a 2022 first, just any of them for a 2023 first. And, that became, you can't do that anymore. But now it's to a point where I'm saying, pick 105. I'll do that. I'll send 105 for a 2023 first. I haven't tried that yet, but I think that I'm more likely to do that now that I'm being that much more aggressive about it, rather than saying, 111, 112, I would do that, where, I wouldn't necessarily do that in a typical year.
Fair enough. Whole pass reference. It's pretty good. My quarterback evaluation process is draft capital and rushing. Yeah, I think that's where we're at. I think we're at this point.
Pretty much.
Ritter and the 104. It's happening.
I would not be shocked.
Malik checks both boxes. Konami code quarterbacks. Yeah,
yeah, that is kind of the.
Don't you hate it when Rich Harper tells everyone nothing goes away? Yeah. Damn him. Sam Howell is a quarterback I like in this draft. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's fine. Like I said, I really like Matt Corral, but it's just going to come down to who gets the landing spot, and probably some draft capital would help too. If they don't go in the first round, I'm not interested.
Also, hey Dave, nice to see you. Been a minute. Mayday. Oh shit, my bad. Hurt, Pollard, and CEH. Oh, okay.
CEH. Move CEH to the front of the line, and then we're good.
That's about it. CEH, Hunt, Pollard. Yeah. CEH, last time I checked, he was like running back 25 in overall ADP. It's like, I get it, but that's why it's why it's easier to get a top 24 running back, but top 24 dynasty running backs are overvalued. If you know what I mean? Right. It's like the top 24 actually get drafted outside the top 24. It's weird. But I'll take it. A Cash also says, Dave. Appreciate that. Hello. Gavin, 204 or Ramondre? Ramondre's an interesting one. I haven't really been taking a stance. I think a second round pick for him is just fine. Yeah. Probably take Ramondre. Yeah. Take the player. I lean player.
Yeah, same. Especially in one quarterback.
Yeah. Hey, Kyle. Don't know why it took me forever to read that, but I appreciate it. Keep Ramondre. Yes, for sure. Andrew, 102 and the 104 for the 101 and the 107. 101 and the 107 easily, right?
Yeah.
It's single quarterback. Like that's outside. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And one quarterback. I think I'll go 101 and 107 pretty easily then. Yeah.
Yeah, because the 4's just outside the tier or whatever, especially in a in one quarterback. So yeah. Easy.
Yeah.
You should just 101 side easy, and it's pretty small. So, plus money. What are the odds that this year in points the best running back from the 2018 draft class is Rashad Penny over Saquon and Chubb? And how amazing would that be? That would be so amazing.
Not amazing. That sounds like that sounds awful. That sounds like a very boring fantasy season for us.
I would enjoy it.
The odds are very low.
I would not find that boring. I would find that
really
most exciting. Yeah, I'd be all over my timeline just tagging Jake every tweet. Guess who's the best running back from the 2018 draft class? I literally just managed to get our podcast on Spotify, and for some reason it's listed the episodes first to last instead of last to first. The first episode of the Dynasty Crossroads is a penny for your thoughts, and it's just me and Jake arguing ferociously over Rashad Penny, and he was right until last year when kind of he was still right, but also he did something. I'll take it. Sorry, it was a fun reminder. Akash also really likes Sam Howell, except for the fact that the entire NFL seems to not, and he's going to go round 2. Yeah, that's rough. Carter or CH in the 209? CH.
Yeah. Probably CH straight up.
Yeah.
The plus is on the wrong side there.
Not scared of Rojo. I reckon. Yeah. No one I talk to has been scared off by Rojo, unfortunately. Maybe Jay might check. He's a big Rojo fan. Bless him. I would love for Penny to smash. Me too.
Yeah.
Mr. 3% target. That's fair. No catch passes, but sadly. I love the grammar going on right now. Someone said Rashad Penny, and suddenly everyone's excited. You see, it could be a really exciting season. I think you're underrating it. Or just start with one penny.
That. I would hate that to just like every week have to see highlights of Rashad Penny just like plodding down the freaking field, and we have to act like he's doing something special. He's having an amazing year, and it's just
another 100-yard game on 55 rush attempts. I'd take it, man. Thoughts on Kenny pass catcher? Honestly, struggling with that one. Kenny Golladay, Kenny Gainwell. Penny is a new lace. Screw you, man. I like laces too.
Thank you.
I like my big tryhards, okay? Leave them alone. Is Penny going to beat out Carson for running back 1 in Seattle? He hasn't yet. Shut up,
man. And I love Chris Carson. Like that's one of my 2 big like sleeper calls that I got right when I was still just kind of getting started. It was Chris Carson and it was Philip Lindsay. And so like Chris Carson just has this soft spot in my heart. But yeah, I mean, that's done, unfortunately.
Joel's got it. This is why I enjoyed it. Ultimately, it just upsets so many people in the best way, in a way that they have fun being upset at it. Like, what's going to be more fun than the guy who literally owned us for 4 years, not suddenly being the only running back from a great class who's any good? So glad I kept rostering that guy. Let's make that part of a dynasty trend and always hold on to running backs for 4 years, just in case. God, what have the Seahawks been doing? They've had such good skill position players come through, and I'm not really including Penny in that, but kind of. And a great quarterback. They've done so many weird things.
I know. Yeah. including never focusing on the offensive line at all.
Right? You think the one thing that a
just like
rushing team
like
might
what do
rely
all
on.
these receivers do for you? What do all these pass catchers do for you if you can't protect the guy throwing to him?
Kyle, my answer would be it really depends on who. I like the idea. I think Seattle's guaranteed volume for a running back, but the running back has to be good. So there are some deeper prospects in this class that would excite me going to a landing spot like that. But I got fooled by Rashad Penny, so maybe I'm not the best source. What we were saying this before we started, there are very few players at any position we're overly excited about, and I think mine topped out at 7 at running back. Really, is there anyone in this class, if they went to Seattle, you'd be like that guy's your second round pick? That's a guy to target outside of Hall, Spiller, Walker.
Yeah, it's really just kind of those three. Well, I'm gonna flip this a little bit and say, if Seattle spends that type of draft capital on a running back with the idea that they're probably going to be the starter, I don't think they will, but like they've kind of got bigger fish to fry right at the moment. But if they were to do that, whoever it is, I'm going to bump them up in my rankings. I just don't think that that's going to happen. I don't think that they're going to spend enough draft capital for us to feel like, all right, this guy finally consolidates that backfield. No more Travis Homer and Alex Collins and DJ Dallas. Like, no more of that. It's just, this is the guy. I just don't think they're going to do that.
See, I think Brian Robinson, he's kind of that. He's good.
Yeah,
that'd be a good running back. He's a plotter, but I wouldn't be excited about it. It'd be like they're going to throw him volume and he's going to do stuff.
Really?
But someone like Rachaad White, I think there might be more upside there just because we didn't get to see his full season play out. He had a little bit more in target share, if I remember right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little more mystery there, and I do think he showed enough that he's good. I might be more excited about that guy. But outside of the top 3, those are the names that occur to me. I really want Kyron Williams and Tyler Batty to be good, but they're not going to be those day 2 running backs that go to Seattle. They're both undersized. Combine, whatever. NFL don't like them. But I do like him myself. Hopefully they find better land spots. My thoughts on Kenneth Walker, honestly, are that he's a very good player who's going to succeed at the NFL. I think there's more limited fantasy upside, but who gives a frick? He's going to put up points and be a running back, and he'll be fun to watch, I think. Genuinely, that's the full take. And that's why he has limited upside, but okay. Kenny 3 Sticks. I'm not cool enough for my own chat. That's what I know. You can't start a rebuild with a running back in the real NFL. That would be, it's Seattle.
Yeah.
Seattle, I'm going to do it right. What are you talking about?
The Giants did it, and how'd that work out?
We'll be lucky if they don't trade up to get Breece Hall. We'll be lucky if they don't do. I'm surprised they didn't trade Russell Wilson to get Breece Hall. I mean, but ideally they won't. But they could draft that day 2 guy with upside, like some of the names we mentioned. Would be interesting. Can he 3 catches again? Tell that to the 2008. Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, man, Barkley was great that first year. Really affected things. Weeze season. I need to get a translator in here for the youth. That's what I need. These guys are all too cool. First you slander CMC, now you slander DJ Dallas.
They can take on CMC, but DJ Dallas is off limits.
Opposite, but same. Brian Robinson visited the Bucks today, apparently. Okay.
I actually think DJ
who's visiting who. I've never seen it pay off. Like, that's the guy that visited that team, and then we knew.
Yeah, I know. That ends up being it feels like it's for show a lot of times. I don't know.
Like last time I remember paying attention to that was every wide receiver that was visiting the Green Bay Packers, and then like they drafted none of them. It's like, wow, that was a lot of effort for nothing. Look how far back that has set the. Joel knows. I don't think anyone would disagree. It's a bad idea. and there are more David Gettlemans than not in the NFL, and I think they all work for Seattle Seahawks. I don't think they're going to do it, but I wouldn't put it at the realm of possibility. I don't know if the Hawks realize they should. I don't think they realize that either, Kyle. No, good point. Walker seems like a good fit for Seattle. Yeah, I don't think Walker doesn't.
I don't know. They already have that. That's Rashad Penny. So.
Oh wow! You see, I think of Walker as better than what we've seen in NFL Rashad Penny. Anyway,
yeah, I think so, but I think they have pretty similar skill sets. So it's more like wait a little bit longer and get one of those pass catchers, one of those a little bit more of a specialist type of guy, and then just kind of create your running back in the aggregate. Like it seems like that's what they've been trying to do. Anyway,
something assumption of rational coaching, and now I feel smart.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with Seattle.
Yeah, the true rebuild needs to start with saying goodbye to Pete Carroll.
Mm-hmm.
He's fun. No, I agree. Brees Hall to the Sea Chickens.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know. I don't mock the NFL draft or anything. So I guess, yeah, if Walker went to Seattle, I think that would be more excited for his fantasy upside than anything else I can think of. I just assumed he would be going to a better team than that. There's very little to like in this draft class. If a team wants a running back, I think Walker should be pretty high up the list. It's him, Spiller, then Walker, and then these guys are somewhat interesting. That's it.
Yeah. See, I think Walker makes a lot of sense for like Arizona, maybe Miami. Like those are some teams that could be looking for running backs, and I think he fits a little bit better with what they already have.
I think increasingly there are only a few teams who will be looking for running back. It's not that running backs aren't great or they don't have any value. I'm definitely not on that train completely, but more and more teams are drafting them later, undervaluing the position, not paying that second contract, unless you're David Gettleman, unless you're the Seahawks. Having said that, someone did just recently get paid, right? Someone paid out for one of them.
Yeah.
Could be wrong. Anyway.
Sounds right.
Sounds right, so we'll pretend it is until they correct us. Thoughts on Marcus Brown? Best wide receiver in the NFL. There you go.
I'm probably a little lower than Peter, but...
Probably. There's not a lot of room up, to be fair. I think he's the most undervalued fantasy player ever. Not ever, but certainly right now.
My issue with him is the quarterback play, but I mean, just from a skill set standpoint, I mean, I've got him a wide receiver 23. Like, it's not like I'm super low. I mean, I think I'm probably higher than most of the industry, but yeah, I can't match Peter's enthusiasm.
Here's a head wrecker. Kyler, the 101, and Muth. For JT to the 103, 12-team Superflex, 1.5 tight end premium. Just JT side. Oh, wait, is it Superflex? So that is a bit of a head scratcher. JT versus Kyler, basically. Right?
Kinda.
The 101 to the 103. Actually, that is a weird one.
Yeah. I think I'm probably sticking with Kyler. Well, actually, you're still getting 103. So, you know what? I'd do it. And again, I feel like this is a type of move that you make in Superflex. You start with Kyler, you tier down to Tua, and you ended up basically upgrading Brees Hall to Jonathan Taylor, and then you still got 103 out of it. Like that's where you were able to extract Kyler's value versus Tua, was by using that difference to upgrade, like I said, Brees Hall at 101 to Taylor and then you still get 103.
Kyler and JT were drafted within a similar range in the draft, though. Like you could have just add JT. That is part of the conflict we have on this, but
I think Kyler about that stuff, though, Peter.
You've got to have Kyler and I guess Malik Willis for JT Tua, and I guess Traylon Burks.
Yeah.
That's what you're taking?
Yeah, I would take the Taylor side. I'd take Tua.
I'd probably take Kyler in the 101 and try and trade that for a running back that's not JT. I'd be pretty much happier with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, opposite sides again. This makes sense. Now, honestly, Dave, I think I might be thinking of Elliott, but that was a while ago, so I could be wrong. Yeah, I'm on the Kyler side. Lamar is a good QB. I agree. Wide receiver 23 higher than ADP. You're a fan, John.
Nice.
Get used to
All
it.
right. I'm good with that. I don't mind being a fan of his, especially relative to the rest of the community.
Plus, money's got another thing. You're trying to forget someone out there traded up into the first round in 2016 to draft Kenneth Dixon over Derrick Henry, and they have to live with that for the rest of their lives. Yeah, it's good to have short memory. We suck at this. We keep trying to get better, though. It's a great debate. I think it's fun one, there's a non-zero chance that Kyler scores almost 2 times Tua. Actually, I don't think that's entirely incorrect. I think that's actually correct. I sent JT away. I like the Kyler side. I think he could. I think that 101 could get you one of the other top 3 running backs, or it can get you a quarterback, which John will tell you should get you one of the other running backs, and maybe Tua. So,
yeah,
Kyler for me, but I understand the hesitancy to draft a quarterback this year, to be fair. Anymore. JT of that side for me. I think what I'm getting from it is it's fairly even.
Yeah.
So you can take whichever side you're on. I think I'm also leaning to just quarterback safer. I tend to lean on the safe side. JT running back injuries. That's kind of where my head goes. And the 103 is a big difference for me from the 101 this year. It's in the same tier, but the 101, you can get any of them, the quarterback or Breece Hall, whoever you want. And the 103, you're stuck with probably not having Breece Hall or Kyler. So it's your wide receiver 1, who I like this year, but I'm a lot less certain of players this year, frankly. So I'm hesitant on it. But I think it's decent. Sorry, John. I said I was going to get you out of here earlier.
No, you're fine, man. You're fine. Yeah.
Where can everyone check you out, my man?
At Superflex Dude on Twitter, Superflex Super Show. Sometimes I do Superflex Super Fridays on this same channel, live on the DLF YouTube channel. And yeah, like I said at the top, I've got that article coming out where I basically just took my Dynasty Superflex rankings and included the 2022 rookie picks in there just to show kind of where I'm ranking them relative to the veteran players. That should be out any day, I would assume.
Make sure you check that out and check out John's podcast and his Twitter handle, apparently. He's fun. He's my favorite frenemy. It's pretty fun. And I enjoy talking to him. He's got some different opinions, which are a good thing to take in. Because honestly, if you just hear things that agree with you, you just continue to do worse. You've got to challenge yourself with different ideas. That's my opinion anyway. And John always has a different idea. So, no, I really appreciate it. And thank you for coming and staying as well. Now, I will tell you all that Ryan McDowell was meant to be here, but he's underwent a thunderstorm. No, it was a tornado warning. So actually, we decided it's probably best he just stays safe. Also, he hates us, and that's why he didn't come here. We may as well just say it. Zachary was meant to come on for a little while, but it was contingent on the idea Ryan might be here for a while. So I think he saw us and were like, nah, and left. Favorite wide receiver value named Michael Thomas. That's a good question.
Yeah, that is.
I like Christian Watson. The NFL probably likes him more. I think he's going to get draft capital. Awesome job, guys. Appreciate it, Joel.
Lazard Kool-Aid. Yeah, maybe a little. Just a little.
I think his upside is 80 targets, 800 yards, and I think people are going to overhype it because vacated targets don't exist.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. No. I think Aaron Jones is going to be the best defensive player. That's where give me Aaron Jones. I like that guy a lot. But yeah, really appreciate it because everyone else bailed and it was just me and John. We're the only ones who are always here for you, even on
That's
a
right.
downstream night, even when there's thunderstorm warnings going on outside. And literally, there was one apparently outside my house that I barely registered because I was busy talking to you guys. Don't know when Dynasty Outhouse could be back because he said it was going to be a couple of weeks. He's been real busy lately. Zach, we hope can be next week, but hopefully John can come back and join us as well.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
We always love talking to John, or I do at least.
Yeah.
As for me, you can check me out the same place you always can, which is right over there.